Het Nieuwsblad E3, Gent Wevelgem. He's a man who's in his pomp right now. The question is, will he have his heart broken, as so many have done at this place in the past? There's Mali Breschel, as you just saw, and they're starting to mix it just a little bit. Bora making a nuisance of themselves, and why not? Rutger Zelik of Germany just spearing, or just staying with Sagan at the moment, but he doesn't overly rely on his teammates. J. Robert Thompson looks like he's may have thrown a chain on momentarily anyway, at least on the rough surface here. And Quickstep just starting to show their nose at the front as well. If there is an effort by Van Aersbroek that may well draw out a response, it's more likely to come with either Julien Vermont or Elio Kaiser on behalf of Quickstep Floors. They're the two rocket men who'll go up the road in order to guard affairs, if you like, or at least be a bridge potentially for the likes of Bonen, Gilbert, Lampert, Stibar, Terpstra, Trentin. When you say that list about Quickstep Floors, you realise just what a fighting force they have here. They've got more options than most, Sean.
Yes, well, they are the team, with many options here, and you look at that list of riders with Quickstep Floors, it's an amazing, and you can pick out, 8 riders would be capable of winning a race like this, the Tour of Flanders. So they have, that option to play. Will they play, the numbers in the end? That is quite possible, because against a Peter Sagan and, against some of the other riders who are really in top shape, I think they will try, play the team card more in the end, but we'll have to wait and see who is, going to be there from Quickstep. And we can see at the moment, the peloton, they're just rolling on over the top of the Quaremont here. They're not really interested in racing. We can see Peter Sagan very much to the front end of affairs for the moment, so he's playing it safe the first time over the outer Quaremont. And we can see here, the amount of hospitality area. It's amazing the number of marquees here are all along the roadside.
Their arms are going to be getting tired now as they flip the cards yet again. They're well drilled, I'll give them that much, but I think those beer tables will probably be full in a few moments' time. So you see some of the twists and turns that we have as the road kind of follows the easiest route through on occasion. Time to take on some sustenance. Sean, it's been a busy day so far. We've done a goodly distance that would have seen the end of many a stage race in the World Tour, and we're kind of only just starting, really.
Yes, well, I think we've seen from the start, this race has been quite a comfortable and easy ride for a lot of the riders. The breakaway at the start, it did manage to get away very easy. When you consider other years, the race went on for 50 plus kilometres before the break was allowed to get away, and they raced at, an unbelievably fast pace, over 50 kilometres per hour. Today that wasn't the case. The break went away almost immediately. So it's been an easy day for everybody, back here in the peloton, and it'll be an interesting one now. At what point will they really kick off, and which team will really kick off affairs first? And we've seen that a lot. Sometimes when the race starts off, a bit more casual, everybody is waiting, and they play that waiting game, all trying to conserve as many team members as possible as far into the race as can be.
It's amazing, isn't it, at the front? It's we're getting that taxi driver moment. Are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Yeah, somebody is going to be tempted. Elio Kaiser looks ready. He's got that long 1,000-mile stare at the moment. Did you get rid of your place out here, Sean? You had a place out here in bungalow,
In Belgium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still got it?
No.
Just remind us, we're not still talking to the world when we're on the break, are we?
Chile, if you are still around, you keep pulling, okay, with Quinciato and the guys from BNC. You keep pulling with Quinciato, Chile. And the rest, we stay on the wheel. We look for Peter, and we start all together, okay?
Opening strategies then have been displayed, I think it's fair to say, early on. Oh, here we are. We look for Peter and we all stay together. Bora Hansgrohe, Jan Valak on board, and indeed talking about protecting their principal asset. And what an asset Peter Sagan is, Sean. Starting the day as out-and-out favourite, defending champion, and in fact defending world champion as well.
Yes, well, and the good thing is, of recent he's shown, exceptional form, and that is so important because, as world champion, you're not always guaranteed you're going to be in the good form at the right time, and he certainly has been over the last number of weeks. So for Bora Hansgrohe, it's a real good opportunity for them to win this one again. And as we can hear there from team orders, Sagan's brother, just asked to continue on riding with the BMC riders and everybody else around Peter Sagan.
That's what it's all about. They've just been over the Côte-Quay, the second climb of today. That's the breakaway. We'll have our main peloton coming through in just over 9 minutes' time. Problem for Edvald Bosenhagen, the Norwegian champion. Problems for everybody on particularly these turns. This is the difficulty, Sean, when there are so many riders locked together. There's just frankly not enough room.
Well, Tour of Flanders, that's what it's about. It's a race that goes, over so many narrow roads, very, very tight corners, and lots of them, and that's where it makes it that much more difficult again. And position is so important, especially when the race, starts to really speed up. That's where it's vital to be in a good position. As we can see, Bosenhagen there, a wheel change, and just being pushed back in by Mechanic.
This is Tour of Flanders, no joke, guys. Come on, move up.
He still hasn't finished. This is no joke, guys. Come on, move up. The trouble is, Sean, all of the DSs will be saying exactly the same thing, and not everyone can move up. Or if you do, it's very busy.
Yes, well, we can see there the quick step, quick step order. Sorry, Tom Steele's there. Another rider have passed with Wilfred Peters in the team car following, and just keeping the riders more here.
We've had a few rolls of the dice, and on some of these rather sketchy roads that you get here, high crown in the centre to help the roads drain of water, of which there is plenty falls in this part of the world, and it leaves a sort of a broken gravelly side to the road where you can pick up either pinch punctures where the asphalt sort of abruptly stops and it's not a sort of a pretty edge, let's put it that way, or indeed the gravel and flint that makes up a lot of the chalk loam that is the land in this part of the world. Easy to plough, unfortunately easy to drag upon the road surface as well, and that can make it very, very difficult. We may not have the rain today, but that doesn't mean that these road surfaces aren't going to get skittery. And the reason is, Sean, that it's dry and dusty. And how many times do we say that at this time of year? It's exceptionally warm. We've seen some very wet and cold races here in Flanders. This is anything but. And you're seeing a dust being kicked up almost Strade Bianchi style by the peloton here.
Yes, well, normally in the Tour of Flanders, weather conditions, it's not the best conditions for bike racing this time of year, but today exceptionally good conditions. And yeah, there is going to be a lot of dust, and the spectators as well, of course, on the roadside there, crossing the road from one side to the other, so they take a lot of that soil on their shoes, and it's left on the corners, and that can be dangerous also. We've seen a number of times where the riders, when they're really racing full on into the corners, it can be a problem where they slide out.
It's doing a big turn. We've spoken more about Ilio Kaiser than just about everybody. He's been very busy, particularly in the Napoleon Cup, where he's been part of breakaways. The Napoleon Cup being an amalgam of all of the sort of lesser classics, the dummy classics in this part of the world. And he has been racing very, very strong. He's come right the way through the winter, having done the 6-day series, which he's so pleased about. We've been pleased to see him in action as well. This is Hofstetter just stopping at the side of the road, just undoing the stays on the front wheel, and does a good job because of that. Sort of, I think he might well have to take a neutral service here as well. Not many cars allowed up these climbs, Sean, and we're on one right now, albeit one of the smoothest, the Cortiquier.
Yes, and we could see there the covetous rider in a little bit of panic actually, because if you have a flat tyre here, you just continue on riding, you put your hand up and try and get your team car to get up to you, and we can see it's in the Orica rider who is starting to push on here now. We've seen a number of individual riders just pushing off the front here, but Docker here just accelerating a little bit and taking a number of bike lengths of an advantage from the front of the peloton.
This is what where you don't want to be once you get to the climb, because if anyone stops, then everyone stops behind, and it's difficult once you're trying to deal with the vehicles as well to work your way back in. Yves Lampeter did a good job there getting back on, and it's a smooth flow through. I think the dry weather probably helps in that regard, just keeping everything rolling at the moment, because they're not losing traction on some of the climbs. The dust that we've just mentioned notwithstanding, of course, but that's going to be more of a problem when we get into the curves. They come very thick and fast, the climbs. We're already on the Eichenberg, as you can see, 1.2 kilometers, and all of it is cobbled, 5.2% as an average, 10% as a maximum. And you can see they've covered the smoother rain gullies here with the barriers, which they've put indented. It's narrowed the road, but it's taken away I don't want to say a cheat, but it's taken away a softer option on some of the climbs. Those barriers and those barrier feet are to be avoided, and so what it's done, Sean, is it's compressed the racing area and made things even narrower.
Yes, it is, and I can guarantee that if you can ride in the water gully, it's just so much easier on the climbs, and the riders they all try and do that. But here we can see lots of barriers, and that's been a topic of negotiation over the last number of weeks, the last number of races here in Belgium, where the organisers are warning the team directors, riders cannot ride on the footpath, and we can see here they put barriers all up the climb, so there's no possibility to get an easier ride up the climb.
No, you can see that the chosen option would be there on the left, a nice piece of asphalt laid smooth. They're being forced to take on the cobbles here. Give a rider a quicker option, and he will by necessity almost take it. This is Andre Loy, just struggling as part of the original breakaway today. It was 6, and then it was joined by 2 others. He just gets the smoother crest to this one now once the cobbles have been dealt with. Yeah, they've set the barriers very, very much closer than perhaps some of you might have seen in the past, and some of the old style barriers there, which do have extraordinarily long feet. I mean, I don't like these indented ones that sit at a 45-degree angle anyway, but some of the older barriers, which you see, they really do step out, and you've got to be careful that you don't tag one of those. They almost extend too far into the road, to my mind. Big cheers, usually surrounding a beer tent. There is fruit juice available for those of that persuasion. And here we are, Docker and De Backer now starting to work together. It was De Backer that went out. Docker brings his moustache up to join the beard, and they are doing their thing at the moment. They've got a margin of 24 seconds. As I think on this wider section of road, it may well be we see an increase in pace. We're seeing that already, Sean. We've been averaging, what, 39, 40 kilometres per hour. It suggests we're sort of up beyond the 45s now. And we've on those approaches, it's starting to get very, very quick and nervy, is it not?
Yes, we can see here changing all the time on the front of the peloton. Riders coming up, as we can see here on our picture. Right-hand side, you know, they're trying to move up all the time on the footpath here to our right, and you know that's going to be just a continuous thing. Riders, you know, just getting pushed back a bit, then getting a little bit of an opening on the outside, and they try and move up once again. And you know, we can see the pace is going up. In the earlier part, of course, we were very much down in the lower average for the day, 39 kilometers per hour. We were just a little bit over that, but I think we're going to, you know, eat into the upward curve there, and it's just going to get faster as the race go on. And again, I think, you know, we'll have a big group of riders for a long way into the very end of this race, so that will help to up the average also.
Well, I think some of the odds may have changed on some of particularly the quick men. You see Andre Greipel doing a lot of driving on work here. Another quick man within Lotto Soudal is Jens de Buskero, who's been running well as well locally in some of the Belgian races. So it may well be that the fast men have some fun, but everyone's going quickly at the moment. Long, long way to go. Next climb in 2K. Bugger Mag. Well, roll with the luck. Why don't you? That looked like somebody holding out a pen for an autograph. They've obviously heard it's a loop. Take this pen. We'll go cross country, and then maybe you can sign something. Not even a cross. As you come back next time by. Here we are then. We're climbing once more, and this time it's the none too small matter of the Wolvenberg. 645 meters of it. Well, we're on the Wolvenberg, and as you can see, the fans have decided to leap the barriers. That's a bit naughty. So the barriers are one thing, but if you want to get very, very close, of course, you kind of vault them. The security guys are here in force as we just sailed by Lidl. They are sponsors of some of the teams. In fact, they're Quick Step Floors as well. But yeah, some cheap grapes. Why not? 8 minutes and 17 is what our break have just for the time being as they go up the Wolvenberg. 7.9% as an average over the 645 meters, but 17.3 as a bit of a punch to the solar plexus. And you're going to get more and more of that. Even these minor climbs, Sean, they have an impact, and look at the way they're racing for them. It may not be the climbs themselves that cause the difficulty, but the compression on the approach to get there first.
Well, certainly we can see there a number of times, you know, the compression in the corners where it does slow up, and you know, you have to just totally knock down your speed. Some of the riders even have to, you know, uncleat and just put their foot down for a moment until they get moving on again, and that's what you certainly do not want to have to do. So out in the front end, in the 30 top places of the peloton, that is the place to be. You get a much easier ride there. You don't have to make those sudden accelerations to get back up to speed again, because that's all you know, using your energy at a time when you need to, you know, conserve energy as much as possible for the final of this one. And you know, when we get into the very final, those difficult out of Quaremont and Patersburg, that's where the energy sapping will be really, really big time.
And it goes on, I'm afraid. Chung Kai Feng, which sounds like an expletive for Bahrain. He's probably issuing a few at the moment. Kenneth Van Bilsen as well, also taking himself something of a tumble. And there, Gregory Rast as well, also mixed up. This can happen at any point, Sean, and they're lucky, I guess, most of the peloton, that it happened way back here.
Yes, well, at the very end of the peloton, in the last, you know, 15 or 20 places, and that's where it's you know, you're wide open to get, you know, caught up in those sorts of little hold-ups where a rider or two or three riders go down. You have to totally, you know, stop, come to a standstill, and then try and, you know, get back onto the end of the peloton again. And you know, we're going to see so much of that. But the riders who are most of them on the end of affairs here. They're the riders who are struggling. They're starting already to really fatigue and just not able to move up in the peloton, and somebody has to sit on the end of the peloton at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. And indeed, why shouldn't it be Xander Cordial from Flanders Classic? By the way, once we've dealt with the Wolvenberg, we go straight into the Holleweg, which is the one of the 5 pavé sections that we're dealing with today. In fact, it's the 3rd of them. And then the Hagenhoek, which comes very, very quickly after that. That's 2 kilometers of cobbles. And honestly, it's kind of there that you're going to get the attacks starting to roll in. So we'll be there in about 5 kilometers time, that double section of pavé. Everyone expects the attacks to come on the climb, Sean, but quite often if you go heavy into the climbs, you're going to be counter-punched on the flat stuff where you're open to a bit of pace. And we've got some very quick men here who still have some reasonably fresh legs because of the conditions today and indeed the pace we've had so far.
Yes, well, normally at 121.8 kilometers to go, the big favourites, the big hitters of this race, they're not going to really try anything at this point. It's much too far out. But you have to be careful in case they use some of their teammates to really up the pace, and for that reason you have to be in a position where you can react pretty quickly without having to make too much of an effort. And that is the reason we can see again here on the rear end of the peloton just totally coming to a standstill, and that's why you have to be up in the front end of the peloton, not to get into a situation as we see here.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid that our friend Chung Kai Feng is on the deck again. That's his 2nd tumble, and I think, and in fact, this time he's gone down and he's stayed down.
Maybe some of the riders happy with that.
Yeah, may well
get
be
rid of him.
Mobile chicane, Chung Kai Feng, I'm afraid, from Taipei. It doesn't look like he's in any kind of hurry to get back up. He's found the cobbles in the worst possible way.
Yes, he's found them to be very hard.
Yes, hard, knobbly, and not very pleasant to lie down on. At the moment, he's still sitting on one of them, I'm afraid. So they sail through 121 kilometers to go, 8 minutes and 24 to our breakaway. Couple of riders, of course, trying to bridge over as we speak, but no great panic. I say that, it's actually started to get very, very nervous, however, today. Next climb comes up fairly shortly. In fact, we're going to see a slow-mo of this bump yet again. Oh, my goodness, he went straight into the back of his own teammate.
He's got no brakes on that bike.
Mel Wang. Mel Wang. I'm chuckling, but honestly, it's out of sympathy. I kind of feel really, really sorry for the guy. And indeed, all of those who've been caught behind him. Oh, a gully. They found a gully. There we are. Oh goodness, Marcus Berghout looks like he is in bother, and unfortunately on a narrow section, rear puncture, and he rides on as far as he can because very difficult to gain assistance. You see the dust that's being kicked up by the motorcycle here as it cuts in, and you can see that it's hanging in the air. When you get on the flatter concrete sections, which they're on right now, that dust can be a nightmare, Sean. It can kind of function like ice.
Yes, well, it can be a little bit dangerous in the corners. Not big time, but still you have to be careful when you're going at a real fast rate. And when the race is really on in the end, that's where we could see riders, having problems and sliding off in some of the corners. But not of a major concern at the moment. And you just have to keep your eye on the corners, and I suppose experience as well is important. The riders who are riding well, who are feeling good, you can see what's coming up in front, and we can see here a lot of riders having mechanical problems, and a mechanical problem at this point as we go into the race where it's really starting to move up front. You do not want to have that.
You do not want to have that at all. Taylor Phinney, remember what I said about those who are going to test everybody out here, and especially some of the long-range missiles, of which Phinney is one, Tony Martin is another, Sylvain Chavanel potentially, Philippe Gilbert, yes. Gosh, so many scenarios as they spread across the road here. They will compress yet again, but every single turn here stops it being 6 wide, goes to 3 wide, single file, you name it, you're going to see it all here. We'll take a break. Hagenhoek, another pavé section before the Leiberg climb. They're coming thick and fast. For a dirt gully, you have to be careful taking on that sort of thing. one man that I haven't mentioned in the second part of our action today, those of you lucky enough to be with British Eurosport will have seen the opening hour and a half at the top of today, but we're all welcoming together now. Let's have a listen.
Then is it exact 4.3 to the Hahoop. Then we go off the cobblestones. So, but the moves will come now. The moves will start very soon, eh? So, boy. Also, Edward, Fabio. Keep an eye on it.
There we are. Keep an eye on it. Sean, there are gaps within the climbs. They're never more than 19 kilometres once we get into them, and mostly are less than 10 kilometres. That's no respite at all, especially when you're battling for position. It's essentially a series of sprints to get in the right place for the right climb.
Yes, well, it's really starting, to push on, and you have to be to the front end of affairs. And you hear all the time. I go on about it myself probably because I think of the race in the mind of a rider, and we can see the director sportifs as well, all saying to the guys, you have to keep to the front end of affairs, and that's what they're all, asking their riders to do. And the hills, they come up very quickly. There's only a number of kilometres between a climb, or as we can see, Cannondale
heavy as well.
Wheel.
Yeah, not great. Well, I didn't want to call this Finney, but it is, I'm afraid. Well, he was busy a few moments ago, and that's a big hit for him, I'm afraid. He's taken a knock as well. I hope he's going to be okay. Glasses are off. He's shaking his head. Maybe a mild bit of concussion. You shouldn't be racing on if that's the case. And certainly that does not look good for Taylor Phinney. Well, just as we were saying, there are options opening up for some of the long-range missiles, I'm afraid. That's the sort of hit that takes a little while to recover from, and the sort of pace that we've got right now, where the attacks are starting to rain in. You saw, of course, Sylvain Chavanel teeing up, Luke Rowe also getting ready to show an interest. This is where the attacks potentially can happen. We called it this morning and said watch out for this area after the double section of Pavé before you get to the Leiberg, the Bellendries and the Ten Boss. That's the preamble, the little triumvirate before we get to the Mur. They all come like a rat-a-tat of a machine gun here, Sean, and you've got to have your best armour ready.
Yes, well, you have to be certainly ready, and you can see at any moment something can happen in the race. It can be a team who want to really push on here, and if you get 3 or 4 riders who accelerate big time on the front of the peloton, well then if you're too far off, then you have to make a big effort to get back into the front end of affairs, and you do not want to do that at this point. We're still just under 115 kilometers to go. We did see there Finney, it looked like he just turned around, had a look behind and touched the wheel. I thought it was actually Ryan Mullen, the Irish rider, because we can see there, the Cannondale riders, there was a number of them together, the 3 or 4 riders very much to the front end of affairs just before we see that crash of Finney. And Finney, he seemed to hit the ground very heavily.
He certainly did. These guys have to do the hug and hook, but Leiberg beckons for the breakaway. 950 metres. It's asphalt surface, 4.2 average, 13.8 as a maximum, and just look at how twitchy it's getting out here. Everyone looking for teammates. Unfortunately, if you're wearing red and black, and most of the peloton seem to be these days, you sort of glance over your shoulder about to sort of say let's go for it, and it's the wrong man. We saw that a few moments ago. Getting back in and getting themselves back into a decent position. Cannondale Drapac that sort of fractured a little bit. They've been riding almost as a unit, and they're starting to reassemble themselves, and that's Sepp van Marcus is being pulled up as well. Dylan van Baal is also in the frame for Cannondale Drapac. They want decent road position, and if they drift to the right, it's to open the road for a left-hand turn. Those dive bombing up the inside are going to cause trouble here. Oh, almost. They all get through. I don't know how they did it, Sean. They were about 10 and 15 wide there, where it really could only accommodate 4 at pace.
Yes, we could see there, just diving up the inside, and it did get very tight there, and it's always nervous times there, and we can see just that fight to get onto those climbs. It's becoming of more and more important now, and we can see Van Mark there. He's very much, Seb Van Mark from Cannondale, of course, he's very much to the front end of affairs, and yes, Sagan, we haven't seen him to the front, but he's in there, and that's what the real, the big riders can do, the experienced riders. if you can keep your nose out of the wind, and if you see the rider on our screens, that means he's taking a certain amount of wind, even though you have a teammate in front of you. If you can just high totally, and a lot of the riders, the big classic riders, they can do that so well, and that is so important to conserve as much energy as possible for the final of this big one.
You saw Chase Benoot there. It was fifth a couple of years ago, 2 seasons back, when he was at just the age of 21. He had terrible bad luck. He's being auto-paced back in by the looks of things. The commissaires may have something to say about that. It's kind of touch and go, really, as to what their mood will be. And they got a teammate rolling alongside him as well. This is Jens de Busker, who's a decent fast man. And in fact, he's been sent on retrieval duties on behalf of Chase Benoot. And through they come with the assistance of the horns that are rattling in a familiar fashion. By the way, that little switch horn is deemed to be friendly. And the cameras here, they're lined up too close, many of them, I think. Not much room, and they're being warned that there's riders coming through and to give them some leeway, and they duly do so. Another squeeze point right here, and look at the pace that they're carrying in. And then it rather like squeezing toothpaste, I guess you might say. Those out front spit out and have the joy of it. Those behind, I'm afraid, are just kept within the body of the tube as we keep the illusion going. A bit more. Here we come. Yet another climb. The dust is being kicked up. They're rattling up it. But to what purpose, or what end, I should say. Chase Benoot trying his best to just hold on to the bike at the moment. It's looking a bit sketchy for many, I'm afraid, who are not happy on the cobbles. So we ask ourselves, what about experience? How much experience do you need to actually thrive on cobble racing? Well, you look at the percentage of wins by the Belgians here, and you can understand that they know these roads that they had to go looking for to give the race the character that they wanted to preserve from the 1930s pre-war. So many of them have been covered in asphalt, and now they're preserved almost joyously so. These cobbles, of course, by the way, all cut by hard labour. If you were sentenced to a long prison sentence and they wanted to make it extra difficult, if you were in front of a hanging judge and that wasn't an option for him, he'd give you hard labour, and you were given to cutting these cobbles as part of your penance. Long old job that was, and we've got one going on right now, and Willems decide, the Crelian boys always like to have somebody busy. Rome Pot as well. I think this is because the men that they've got in the break may be starting to fade just a little bit. They want alternatives, some fresh legs perhaps for these guys out front. 7 minutes and 8 is the gap as they come through for what looks like polite applause.
Yes, well, we can see on the front of the peloton, we could see Seb Van Mark there calling to Ryan Mullen from the Cannondale team just to slow things down a little bit, and immediately we could see, some of the smaller teams pushing on, going in the attack, and you're going to get that. And moments before that, it was racing at a very fast rate just to get onto the cobbles, and that's the way it is. They race to get a good position onto the difficult sections. If it's an uphill cobble section, or if it's just a flat section of cobbles, then the bigger teams and the big favourites, they try and calm things down a bit, but you're open to attacks from the other teams then, and that's what we've just seen at the moment.
This is one of the asphalt routes through. This is Leberg, 950 metres, just shy of the kilometre. 13.8 is the worst incline, and it happens right at the very top. Sean, they've already done an awful lot of racing. We're approaching the 150 complete marker right now, and you're kind of feeling for these guys. You've been through this, you know what they are going through. Would you have preferred a wetter race today had you been on the bike?
Well, I think if you're in really good shape and you can ride well over the cobbles and the little cobbled uphill sections, then the wet conditions, it makes it more difficult. So I think the real big favourites, it makes it a bit easier for them. As you can see here in the peloton, a huge bunch of riders all the time, and that is going to continue on for a long time in this race. And you have to keep on fighting to hold your position, because riders coming up on your left and right all the time, it makes it more aggressive. It's also very, very difficult to keep your position with a very big bunch of riders. So that is the way it is with the really good conditions here today.
When you're seeing a call from team principals or their favourites to have their have some of their strong men just go to the front and actually change the pace, that shows you that they're feeling good. John Degenkolb is a quick man. If if he gets to be selective towards the end, and he'd like to shake out quite a few and cause fatigue, he seems to be sustaining climbs very, very well indeed, and he's called for a teammate to just get up here and start adding to the pace. Francis de Jure likewise, Arnaud Demar, who has got a good turn of pace about him, the former winner of the Milan-San Remo, of course, also asking for a bit more action today. That suggests that there are some fresh legs among some of the faster guys here. Next up, we've got the 10 Boss, and we'll be there in about 3 kilometres time. Another problem, it's Astana that is at issue, as you can see, and on the blower, and it does not look good. Is that Matti Breschel that's calling for assistance right now? Team principal for them, I think Alexei Luchenko is probably going to be their best hope for the day as we come through Elst right now. Belen Dries is on the cards, and then it'll be the 10 Boss, and then Sean, we will have the mighty Muir. It's back in the race, and indeed when that ticker says 95, so we're not that far away, we're going to be taking on the Muir de Gerardsbergen. And how nice is it that it's back in the race, not in its former position at the end, but nonetheless at a crucial part when fatigue is starting to be an issue.
Yes, we can see it's Breschel here, who was a rear puncture, and he's just continued on, you know, rolling along, and you can see it takes a long time for the team car to get through, and if you have your team car in the cavalcade, which is, you know, quite a long ways back in that, well then it takes seems like forever before the team car comes. But yeah, Gerardsbergen, it's a very important part of the race. The climb itself, it is narrow, and there is going to be problems for a lot of riders, so you have to be up in the front end of the peloton going on to the Muir. Otherwise, you know, if you get caught up behind, well then you're going to have, you know, a big effort to get back in if you ever make it to the front end of affairs after that.
Degenkolb and Trek are mustering towards the front. They've also got Fabio Follini, who's extraordinarily strong. He was in the E3. He says he lacks confidence on the cobbles. I guess the dry weather that we've had may well just alleviate some of his stress. They've also got Edvard Tones, Jesper Stuyven as well, but John Degenkolb could well be a massive battering ram for them at the very last here today. And Big John is up towards the front for Trek Segafredo with their red shoulders on a black background, as you can see. Lots of checking about to see who's where at the moment. I thought that Quick-Step might well use the Muir itself as a launch pad. They may well come through in a short while. But you can see that Orica Scott are also getting busy at the front as they take on Belen Dries, maxing at 12.3%. It's all asphalt. That's the only blessing they've got. And here's Yves Lampert, I'm afraid, that's found himself at the side of the road. I don't think it was Yves Lampert, actually. We'll double check on that for you, but I think that may well have been Terpstra. We'll have a look. No great hurry to get back on the bike because it wasn't quite set right, but there is Sky just bedded in as well. Big puff out of the cheeks going on here by all and sundry. Juraj Sagan is working for his brother Peter today, and you heard on the blower they were saying get up the road and make yourself useful. Meanwhile, look at this, an absolute lockdown. You can't see the road for the riders and the crowd, Sean. This is fabulous. This is an indication of just how popular not only is at the front of the pack here, but every ounce of tarmac here is extraordinarily valuable, I think. Oh my goodness, another one.
Yes, and it's such a familiar picture of a Tour of Flanders. On the climbs you can see the riders, you know, the way they funnel through, the spectators, you know, 5 and 6 deep at each side of the road. It's amazing, you know, there's not more crashes because the riders, you know, they're rolling along at, you know, 40+ kilometers per hour, and we do see, you know, they do have to, you know, slow down, riders having to put their foot down, but it's amazing that we do not see more spills.
Well, they're so close at hand there on the Belen Dries, but our break taking on the 10 Boss. The 10 Boss, just 450 metres. Again, it's more asphalt, maxing at 8.7%, but it shows you how quickly these climbs come, just one after the other. Edvard Tones has been sent up the road as a foil, and what a great rider he is. He's got his own options here today. Jesper Stuyven, Fabio Follini as well, I think will go well, but watch for Degenkolb as we mentioned. Eva Bossenhagen or Scott Thwaites for Dimension Data. Eddie Boss has had 2 punctures today. that can be wearing. It's always like an added hazard, if you like, especially when you pile it on top of 18 climbs that come in such rapid order. Just waiting then for them to take on our breakaway. They're about 200 meters from the top of the 10 Boss, so they're already on it. But look at this. The attacks are raining, Sean, raining down on us hard. We said somebody might go for it. I thought it would be Quick Step, to be honest, but it's other teams that have decided that they're going to play a hand at least. Maybe not their main hand, but the cards are falling already.
Yes, well, you know, some riders in the teams like Trek Segafredo, other tunes, they are pushing on. Is he trying to, you know, form a breakaway, or is he just trying to make the race difficult? That is the question. Looks like that, you know, they want to just pull out the peloton, make it difficult, and maybe it's the orders from John Degenkolb, you know, with so many riders still in here and it's so nervous in the peloton. Well then, you know, it's not surprising that some of the teams want to stretch out this peloton.
Well, as you can see, we have the Eau de Clermont is already being taken on by the women's race, which is going on in partnership with the men's race today. This a fantastic group of riders in their own right, and it's a joy that we're actually showing you some of it at least today. Their race slightly shorter but no less competitive and combative along the way. Lizzie Dangnan is the defending champion for Bols Dalmans. Anna van der Breggen and Chantal Black for them also involved at the pointy end. Jolien de Hoor for Wiggle High 5 in action with Elisa Longo Borghini. This is a race of strength and indeed, well, equal character, I think it's fair to say. 141 kilometres in length, but taking on a really difficult loop, Sean, as well, including, of course, the Muur de Gerardsbergen themselves.
Yes, well, it's again, it's a difficult parcours for the ladies' race, and you know, a lot of riders also. You know, I was looking at the stat list this morning. There was around 160 plus riders, you know, kicked off this morning. So that is also a huge field. We can see here, you know, it's dwindled down to be quite a small group here out front at the moment.
Yes, it is. Ellen van Dijk and Corinne Rivera are in the front group as we speak. Longo Borghini and Jolien de Hoor from Wiggle High 5, not that far behind. Gracie Elvin for Orica Scott started off the day as one of the favourites, and she's, as you can see, just part of this group that are pushing on with 17.1 kilometres remaining. It's shattered, Sean, as you can see, late on, and this is going to come down to a very selective sprint for the line with 17.1 kilometres to go.
Yes, well, of course, you can see with 17 kilometres to go, you would expect it to be, you know, broken up as it is at the moment, and they're very much in the final, and you know, they have made a lot of the difficult part of the race already, so you know, they're very much into the end of affairs in this Tour of Flanders.
Doing a fantastic job as well, so we'll keep an eye on that. I'm hoping we don't stay split screen all the time. It'd be nice to go back to one or the other. We will be taking our own break in a few moments' time. There is a gap between the two groups in the women's race of only 10 seconds. And they take it on yet again. It's great that they've got as well, of course, they're able to share not only the course, a good body of it, but the enthusiasm of the crowd, showing that women's cycling, of course, is more than alive and well. It's competitive and entertaining, and personally speaking, I absolutely love it. It's great that at least we're seeing some pictures this year after many years of begging for it. We'll take that break, back in a moment. I knew they were going to do this to me. Welcome back. You see that we have plenty of quick men up towards the fore. You see the tricolour of Philippe Gilbert is on spectacular form. You see, of course, as well, Andre Greipel, the German champion, embedded within that group. You can see as well that some of those names that, like Pim Lichtart, you saw him just coming to the fore there for Roompot. You may well change a gear in terms of your team's credentials, let's say, but it doesn't take away from the class of the rider, and this is a classy move by this man as he pushes on. Pim Lichtart decides that he is going to stretch his legs. He's dropped down, of course, you might say, a division with Rumpot Nederlander, but it does not mean that he is diminished at all in terms of class or indeed bravery. And he can go for it on a length such as this. Lichtart is a good engine room and an option, I think, Sean, that Rumpot will be pleased to have on a day like this. He's going for it.
Yes, well, he is having a go here, but again, it's a big one, you know, 550 up to the breakaway, and they have a man in the breakaway already, but I think Pim Lichtart, you know, he just wants to get out of the main peloton. Hopefully there will be a few riders join him, and to get over some of the climbs before the racing really starts between the big favourites for this race. And you know, he knows that he hasn't got it, you know, to match the big guys when it gets into the real serious stuff. So I think he's using his experience here, Pim Lichtart, to just get out in front and try and be ahead of affairs before this race really kicks off.
I'm hoping that we're going to see the climax of the women's race. We've got 4 in the break at the moment. They're just extending their lead ever so slightly. Anna van der Breggen from Bols Domans Cycling. Of course, they have the defending champion, Lizzie Dignam, but it's van der Breggen for them that's pushing on right now. I thought it might be Chantal Black for them, but van der Breggen, who's been a bit quiet this year, is certainly getting very loud right now. We know all about Elisa Longo Borghini of Wiggle High Five. She and, of course, the youngster Karashna Niedvadoma of WM3 Energy, and Amelia van Vleuten. Now, I have difficulties with our timing on the women's race, so I'm just hoping that we can call them in for you. But those 4 have got a little gap at the moment of about 25 seconds. Here we are. That was the last report, by the way. Bike change in Cofidis lays the bike down with respect. I always like to see that, Sean, as opposed to a rider who generally tends to just chuck it, which you see when frustration comes to the fore.
Oh yes, sure, mind your bike.
Watch out for it. It's your steed. Yes, and you'll be getting back the bruised one later on. Tony Martin. There we are. Great respect we have for this man, and here he is, just drifting in for getting a change right now. Love to see Tony Martin when he's functioning well. I thought that he'd been called for assistance. It may well be to guard Alexander Kristoff, who many people are writing off Kristoff. No poetry intended. But I think he is going to be a major feature today, especially the way this has panned out. Pim Lichtart gets taken back in, but he's done a job. He's helped to close down that gap, albeit ever so narrowly, you might think. Noticing that Sylvain Chavanel is mustering towards the fore as well. You see his skeletal visage. It's no disrespect, it's just our way of spotting him. He's up there towards the fore. Nice swift change ringing in there for Lutsenko. He's the favoured man, I would suggest, for Astana. Maybe Valgren as well, Michael Valgren, the big Dane potentially. And here comes Sky. Now, I don't know whether this is basically to chuck water in everyone else's barbecue, or whether they are planning something here. Sky love to control, Sean, and right now they're at the head of affairs.
Yes, well, it's such a familiar sight. We see a number of Sky riders very much to the fore, and they certainly are here. We can see, at least 5 riders here to the front end of affairs, and it's the place to be. First of all, you're ready if there's something, happens here, if some of the teams really push on. They're out of danger as well a bit more by riding on the front, and at this point, it's inside the 100 kilometres to go. You have to be very much on the front of the peloton here.
Philippe Gilbert brings the Belgian tricolour to the front. We always love to see that. The fans love it as well. He gets an extra roar, and everyone behind him looking what he's asking for. Well, he wanted to be selective as to what the drink was, and suddenly, as you can see, this is very much the attack zone that we are dealing with right now, Sean.
Yes, so you can see, Katusha rider pull it there, just kicking off, and we've seen so much of that. A lone rider. We see Lichtart there just going and given maybe a kilometre of 2 out in front, and same situation here from the Katusha rider. It tells that the peloton, it's slowed down once again, and we can see full road full of riders. That means that there's a little bit of a calm again, and we've seen this so many times. when we're coming to a point where there's the cobble sections or the uphill sections, you know, it really kicks on. They race to get onto it, and then when they get through that, it just slows down again. And we're going to see that, I think, a little bit more, unless it's a team who really just get to the front end of affairs and, you know, blow this race apart.
Oh dear, well, just as the brake reached the Mur, unfortunately, this is Bonifacio. Not such a happy face, I'm afraid, at the moment. He's in the ditch and he's in no hurry to claw himself back out of it, I'm afraid. So our break is on the Mur de Gerardsberg and are just approaching it right now. They're about 1 kilometre from the top. In fact, so that means they're fully engaged. There's the tumble, hard on the shoulder. Treble roll, I'm afraid, almost a salto mixed in with it, I'm afraid. Not good at all. Another rider's held up there, Sean.
Yes, we could see Bernie Eisel there, wasn't too happy. I wonder what was going through Bernie's mind, but you can see Bonifacio there. He tumbled and he rolled very heavily, and it doesn't look like he's going to get back in his bike very quickly. And you can see there, the road here, the footpaths, and everybody is just fighting position. So space is vital here, and there's going to be a lot more of that here as we go into the final 95 kilometres of this race.
Look how the barriers are being tested here. Everyone just pushing forward to see the stars come by. There'll be even more in the firmament after these guys have rolled through. They've done a brave job, our breakaway. And there we are, 5 minutes and 49 is the gap. That's how long we'll have to wait for everyone else to come through on the Mur. Dipping in.
As you can see, guys, a lot of teams are quite nervous. They want to put up a break here from the peloton. For sure it will be hard to stay up front before the Mur. After the Mur, position is important there.
There we are, calmly delivered, but almost like a surgeon's speech about what he's going to do to you with the knife. Essentially, these guys now are being told, get yourself up to the front. The trouble is everyone's saying the same thing, and look at the pace on the approach to the Mur.
Yes, well, the Mur is a one which is going to be a difficult one, and there are going to be problems for a lot of riders if you're not, to the front on the Mur going on to it. You could get into difficulty, and we can see there. And we're just hearing from, of course, he's a sergeant, Marc Sargent, so he's giving the orders quite firmly.
Major.
And that's what you've got to do. You've got to get your numbers, as many as possible, to the front end of affairs. And we can see for the breakaway here, with the 8 riders, this is a luxury here. You get onto the Mur, there's lots of space here, you can climb it. If you're feeling good, well, then you just continue on out front and you're ahead of the rush.
Yeah, you're ahead of the game, and a more relaxed ascent, let's put it that way. They just come over past the church where so many cycling fanatics decide that they're going to tie the knot. If this is wet, this is an absolute nightmare. We've seen some great pushes on this climb. It's lovely to welcome it back to the Tour of Flanders where it belongs. It used to be one of the final climbs along the way. It was expelled from the race because of route design. It's now back, albeit with 95 kilometres remaining for those who crest it, Sean.
Yes, and it's a long ways, 95 kilometres to the finish of this Tour of Flanders. It's, a long ways out. In the past, when we had the Mur, it was very much in the final 30 kilometres, so it was vital importance, on this one. Today, it's not going to be as important, but still, it is going to be a place where you have to be careful, and it could be turn out to be a decisive climb if some of the teams really push on here, as we can see. Still going on, teams fighting for position on the front of the peloton. Everybody wants a piece of the road for the time being. It's Philippe Gilbert who's bossing it, as you can see. Day for that team. Borat Bozic, I think it was, that was on the deck for Bahrain Merida. They've had an absolute nightmare as the hell begins, and here they come up the Mur. The crowd roar, and there'll be it's a high buy for the peloton here. I'm afraid they will push on as others nurse their bruises, and Sky staying safe. And I suggest at the moment, at least in that neutralisation phase, where they've got the options if they want it. It's theirs to play with right now, and they've bought that right. As you can see, also embedded are Quick-Step Floors, who are already also part of it. And Bernie Eisel goes down again, and it looks like he's just gone behind the barriers. I think he's thinking
more of a hot dog, quite frankly, right now. It's not been a pleasant day for him.
He's thinking cafe.
I think he is, and you can forgive him that, I think, Sean. Brutal day for many. Eisel's been held up, knocked down, punctured. He's having a nightmare.
Yes, he's been in the problems a number of times there, behind riders who are crashing and getting held up, and you can take so much of that, and looked like that he was putting his bike to the side. Maybe a problem, the bike was damaged and just waiting for the car to get a spare bike.
Well, it may well be that it was just in a narrow section, but it really looked like a suggestion of abandonment, maybe just played with mentally for a few moments. He'll be back. He's a phenomenal fighter, of course, Bernie Eisel, but Edvard Bosenhagen and Scott Thwaites could use him, quite frankly. Sky using all their personnel and using them to very good effect. And look at Gilbert, look at the glance, and Bonin speaks with Gilbert. Now, is this going to be a brief alliance between the former teammates? They have a look at each other. Are we going to go for it? Bonin has a look back. Well, he's got company, and big company as well, Sean.
Yes, we can see Alexander Kristoff from Katusha there in the wheel of Tom Bonin, so another one of the big favourites. We can see Sagan just coming through at the moment. He's a bit further off here, and but certainly not out of contention at all. But will some of the other riders push on here? We can see Bonin is the one who is securing the pace on the climb at the moment.
There's Sagan, centre of proceedings. Sepp van Maat was ahead of him as well. As we look further down the order, there's Andre Greipel just grinding into the incline. He's not a bad climber for a quick man. And John Degenkolb also part of this grouping. And here they come. They're starting to roll with it. Sagan's called for a little bit of action just to make sure they mark out the pace. And look at the splits that are happening further down this incline. It's tough, Sean. It was designed to be. And they're just over that nasty, spiteful 20% right now. It'll ease up for them, but what shock to the body.
Yes, well, it is and a bigger shock for a lot of the riders, as we can see further back in the peloton. The riders who are starting to suffer fatigue already, taking its toll. But at this point, when we get over the climb, if they push on, well, then it could be a bit more difficult for the riders who have lost a little bit of ground on here on the Muir of Geroldsbergen here. But again, I'm not sure. With still 91.1 kilometres to go, is there a team, is there riders who will really push on at 100%?
Yes, it's a big question. We'll find out before you know it, I'm sure, because this is where some of the principals have come to the fore. Those who are either out-and-out favourites or certainly within the top 10 of those who could win this race. And I suggest there are 20 different riders, especially the way that this day has panned out. An easier start than many would have thought. That's kept a lot of strength in some of the quick men who not necessarily favour the climbs. They're going to have something left towards the end. Interesting to see Turbo Durbo coming through as well. Still looking very, very strong and fluid. 90.7 to go. 4 minutes and 48. And Philippe Gilbert, the cat and mousing. Can you believe it? It's almost like, what have we done? Who have we got here? They have to look round and find out who the allies are and whether they're a danger.
Yes, well, I think you can see the riders all looking around there, and they're just going to have a quick check, who's not measured in this group of about 15 to 20 riders, and that is the danger one. If you're a big favourite here, a rider who is in contention to do a good ride in this race, if you miss the move here and they really push on out front, then the effort to get back can take its toll in the end, and that's where you need some teammates around you if you're not on the front end of affairs.
Yes, exactly. This looks like it's mustering into an effective fighting force. There's going to be a response from those who believe they should be here. Luc Rowe is within this group. As you can see, Coquard as well, but Gilbert's also here, Bonin's here, and so is Kristoff. This could be a winning move if they pushed on, but Gilbert at least doesn't want to be anyone's fool, and he goes for a theatrical toot on the bidon, Sean, as if to say, you think I'm going to be doing most of the work here for the next 90 Ks? Well, think again.
Yes, well, it is a long one, and it will depend on, what sort of an advantage they've got here. We can see there's another 2 riders making contact here. And the most important, the groups are chasing. How far off are they? And that is going to be, I think, the decision making for the guys out in front. But Philippe Gilbert, he's just, sitting back here, and I think, yes, it's going to be difficult to see this group really, everybody committing and pulling on here, and I would see him being pulled back by a lot of the other groups which are just further back the road. It
is a danger, and they're having to work hard behind, Sean. We said that some of the main moves may well come on the flatter sections. just after the climbs. If you go too deep, Sean, when you're on one of these inclines, these testy inclines, you can be open to attack when the road flattens out.
Yes, well, I think the way they attacked the Muir there, it was, you know, at a very fast pace, and we can see that it did, you know, cause problems in the peloton. It split it quite a lot. There was a lot of gaps between riders here, but we can see a big group of riders, you know, 30 plus riders here coming back, and that should contain a lot of the big favourites here. And if that's the case, when they join up with this Bonin Gilbert group, I think there will be, you know, a little bit of a downtime, and a lot of riders will get back into the front of the race again.
I think so. I think the group's just slightly too big, Sean, and it's got too many principles for those who've missed out to allow this to happen.
Yes. Problem is, you know, there's going to be a lot of riders who will just, you know, tag on the rear here and try and get an easy ride. And when you look at 88.6 kilometers to go, I don't think, you know, there's a lot of riders want, you know, to commit here at 100%.
It's interesting as well. Katusha have got Alexander Kristoff in this group. He's clearly been on the blower and said this is not going to be the group, and it's his team that are chasing back in. Chavanel's here, and he's just coming to the front right now. Sylvain Chavanel with Brian Cocard, who he will be working for. A quick man who can go up a few inclines as well, Cocard. Well, they're sharing duties for now. Dangerous times, I think. A smaller group, though, or another more significant group, I think, though, will tag them in a moment. Welcome back. A quartet of hope up the road, just about to be tagged in the women's race with 1,400 metres to go. The question is, they're looking at each other. Are they going to stretch it? That's Van der Breggen from Boels Dolmans. We've got Longo Borghini from Wiggle High Five. We've got Neve Dioma as well from WM3 Energy, and Van Vleuten as well. But they're just about to be caught with 1,200 metres remaining, and they're going to start drifting across the road right now as they go under the Flamme Rouge. Lizzie Deignan is also within this group. This is a phenomenal finale that we've got winding up for us right now, Sean.
Yep, we can see there they're just, you know, being pulled back in the final 1,500 metres inside that, and it's going to be down to a big group sprint. It's
going to come down to a big group sprint. Alan van Dijk is also here for Sunweb. You can see there, big frame. She checks over her shoulder as if to say to her teammate, that's Mackay, come and help out. Well, they're at the end of their resources right now as they start to hit it and pick up the pace. That's 500 metres to go. Boels Dolmans in with a shout here. So Wiggle High Five. Longo Borghini, can she make it? Orica also very much here with Van Vleuten, who was part of it, and Elvin as well. And they start to just mix and match all over the road here. 300 metres to go, and it's the women's race just drawing to a climax. Phenomenal efforts that have been raining down on us here. Heads up view for you. We'll get the result in a few moments' time. But what a brave effort it is. And Orica Scott coming through with Van Vleuten. I think, is she going to manage to push on through the centre, dead centre at the moment? Oh, it's going to be a photo at the line. Sunweb taking it at the line. I think it may well have been Alan van Dijk who just picked herself up at the very last. In fact, it was Corinne Rivera who makes it stick here. Biggest win of her career. Phenomenal finish there, holding off Chantal Black, who was fast finishing for Boels Dolmans. What a result. Ellen van Dijk was in there as well, and she roars down the radio. She's done it. Fabulous, fabulous finish. Brave and well timed, Sean.
Yes, well, very well timed, and it was a fight to get to the line. The final 20-30 metres there, a real fight to make it to the line. It looked like that. Any of the three girls on the front line, could take the victory, but yes, she held on quite well.
Absolutely fantastic, and great for her as well, and indeed her team Sunweb, an incarnation, if you like, of the great giant teams of the past. But Corinne Rivera, all credit to her. That was a very, very brave finish. She's only 24 years of age. She took the Trofeo Alfredo Binder, by the way, and now she's only gone and won Flanders. Well, we had a brief snapshot of the women's race. Sorry we couldn't see more, but it's an abundance of riches, I guess, from Flanders here. And in fact, we don't have the privilege of asking for the pictures, I'm afraid. We give you what we are provided with. So apologies that if we didn't see more. I would certainly like to see an awful lot more of women's racing, Sean, which is enthralling, isn't it? Great level.
Yes, well, we can see, you could see there, you know, in the final what an exciting final it was, with the 4 breakaway riders looking like they were going to go all the way, but in the end, you know, that chasing group proved to be the strongest, and just coming back in the final 15, inside the final 1500 meters, and coming down to a big group split between about 25 to 30 riders.
Once again, Corinne Rivera is the champion here in Flanders. One of the pre-race favourites, I think it's fair to say, because she's on amazing form at the moment. Third in Ghent-Wevelgem, and now she's added Flanders to the Trofeo Alfredo Binda result for her. Absolutely outstanding talent from the United States, just 24 years of age, and she's won a big one here. 84.3 kilometres to go then, Sean, as we pick up back with the men. And Juraj Sagan and I'm not suggesting there's an alliance formed just yet, but Edvald Boasson-Hagen pushing hard as well within this group. Those that pushed off at the front were basically just too talented to be allowed to go, and there's still a lot of pace about the chase at the moment.
Yes, well, there's a lot of riders who have missed this the split here on the Müller-Gersbergen, and for that reason we can see, you know, it's really pushing on. That group out front, we could see there they still have a little advantage. I think they're just about hanging out there, but back in the peloton we can see a number of the bigger teams still securing the pace setting on the front.
Well, chasing as well behind, of course, Peter Sagan. He could almost, I'm sure, bridge, but no Sagan and no Greg Van Avermaet, who had to work very, very hard as well. There is the second group. That's, by the way, that quality group, including Gilbert. We'll call it the Gilbert group, shall we? But it means that the breakaway has got problems. Maybe we should call it the Bonin group, but then again, there's so many start turns within this group, Sean. You wouldn't be surprised if that was the makeup, quite frankly, at the end of the day, save for the fact that Sagan and Van Avermaet have missed it.
Well, I think it's going to be difficult for this group to continue on. We can see, you know, there's riders here, you know, some of the big favourites we can see from, you know, Quick Step Floors, Bonin, Trentin, and Gilbert. We see Christophe is here, Luke Rowe is here, Stuyven, Van Mark. So, you know, a lot of the favourites here. Armand Demar also here. We could see Coquard was also there with Chabanel. So, you know, there's a lot of very good riders, but still in that group chasing with Degenkolb, with Van Avermaet, with Sagan. I think it's going to be difficult to see this one holding out there, but they are pushing on, and they're going to, you know, really test the group behind. The other favourites that have got caught out and are back in the second group, they're going to have to, you know, get their teammates to the fore to close this one down, because as we can see, it's around, you know, 20 to 30 seconds at the moment.
Well, it was only that previously. Gilbert and Bonin locked together in Quick Step. We saw them actually look at each other. There was a brief interchange as Bonin said, "Come on, let's go for it," and they suddenly turned on the style, which was a joy to see. Now, Sky have got a couple of men where they want them to be, and so they're acting as anchors at the moment. Luke Rowe is up towards the fore now. We're talking about potential British wins, and Luke Rowe has got an amazing strength in depth. He's always had the attitude, Sean, and today he's in a terrific position in being in the right group, I suggest at the right time as well.
Yes, well, I think Luke Rowe, he's proved in the past that, you know, he is a really good classics rider, and he's been knocking on the door, you know, for a number of years now, and he's already proved this year that he is in quite good shape in some of the build up to the bigger classics and the semi-classics, let's call them, and you know, there's no reason why he cannot pull off a big one. And you know, when will that be? Will it be, you know, this time this year, or will it be, you know, a little bit further away? But he's certainly, you know, he's up there with a real good chance of you know, having a win in a race like today.
Yeah, and indeed, why not? Well, Christophe is also part of that group. Somebody else, Sepp van Mark, is there. Jesper Stuyven. Gracie Elvin, by the way, runner-up ahead of Chantel Black in that women's race, just to keep you up to date on that finish, which we've just seen. There we are. Well, Greg Van Avermaet not where he needs to be, and there's others cursing here. That's Albert Bettiol as well, getting a bit vocal. There's Greipel, a bit of an argument between Greipel and Bettiol, as if to say, come on, let's go and do some work, or at least give me some room. There's Peter Sagan with Edvald Bosenhagen, the Norwegian champion, alongside. His brother as well of Sagan, Uri, is there. And no surprise to see, of course, Philippe Gilbert pushing into this day right now. This is quality, Sean. We've got Christophe, we've got Bonen, we've got Gilbert, we've got Van Mark, a whole load of others.
Only 3 riders are chasing.
Yes, we're hearing quick step orders. Only 3 riders are chasing. So, and for quick step floors, of course, they have three of their men up there: Trentin, Bonen, and Philippe Gilbert, with a lot of the other big favourites. And we can see here, a lot of them, want to ride here, and if they get organised and everybody, contribute to the pace setting on the front, to the pulling on the front, it's around almost a minute at the moment back to that chasing group, the tall group on the road, or the peloton, let's call it, with Peter Sagan, Greg Van Avermaet. They're all back there, but a lot of riders in that main part of the peloton who are, still very much committed to riding here. But will they be capable of closing it down? That depends on how well organised they get up here in this Bonen and Philippe Gilbert group.
Well, Jesper Stuyven, who won the Kern Brussels Kern last year, was runner-up this year, don't forget. He's in stellar form for Trek Zagafredo. He's made it into this group. We've got Alexander Christophe, who I keep mentioning, looked to be on amazing form, absolutely back to his best. He won this in 2015, don't forget, Alexander Christophe. I think, I thought at the top of the day, more than capable of repeating the feat here. Such is his form at the moment. If you want the form man, then it's hard to look past, of course, Philippe Gilbert. And a situation for him, you heard it from the team car. He's got amazing support here. If it's for Gilbert, they may have to sort it out between themselves. They might even go for the 1, 2, 3. They've got Tom Bonen, of course, going for the 4th. And of course, Trentin is also within this group as well. Fabulous lineup for Quick Step, with Christophe here, Luke Rowe for Sky, Van Mark, Sepp Van Mark for Cannondale, has not been well. I said the secret was, or the whispers were, that he was on absolutely the best of form despite recent sickness, and Jesper Stuyven as well. You cannot look past this group for potential.
Will they continue on? That is the question.
Long shot, and maybe a shot into the blue for these guys. There's the peloton, and everyone in that group. There are too many principal teams up the road who've got an option, and so the big lean is on the teams that have nobody there. And right now Bora are having to work, and so are Astana, and I suggest there is an awful lot of discussion as to work rate, and there are many other teams that can just sit in here, Sean, because they've got some proper contenders up ahead.
Yes, well, when you look at the riders we've got ahead, of course, Quick Step Floors, they're in a real good position with 3 riders out in front. Also Sky with Luke Rowe and Moscon, they're also in a good position. They're not going to ride. Christophe, Katusha, they're not going to contribute here to the pulling back in the peloton. So we can see this, it's limited for the moment. The interesting one is Greg Van Avermaet from BMC. We do not see many riders here from that team, and they need to be with more riders to the front of affairs to really try and close down this one with the riders that we have already riding up front.
There we are. You can see it's busy back here, and well, you can understand why when you realise just how many of the teams could have done with somebody up the road. I suggest that this may well be the undoing of Durbridge, I'm afraid, because Orica Scott are going to be lent on, and despite his amazing capacity, both he and Jens Kerkelaere, I think Durbridge now would have to work to try and get Kerkelaere across. But it's a miserable group for the time being, and it's 1 minute and 6, and it's being held. And it's being held because there are certain teams that will just ride in here as opposed to pushing on. As you heard, they were describing what remains of today. Next climb is the Pottelberg for the breakaway. 2 minutes later, or just a little bit less than that, is going to be that Bonen, Gilbert and everybody else group. It's hard to know how to describe it, to be honest. The group of gold, maybe, who knows. Then they'll have the Canaryberg, then the Claremont, for the second time of asking, Sean, and that I suggest. I think the fighting group, if it stays together, if it catches the breakaway, that's going to throw something else into the mix, I suggest, because that would be a large group, but I think they'll battle by them. I think the quality difference between the break and indeed the chasers at the moment is too big. I think the break is doomed, and I think they may well be absorbed. The question is when.
Yes, well, that is the question, and we can see this gap out to the breakaway of 8 riders is coming down very quickly. 144 at the moment, and you know, that was a huge gap, you know, 25 kilometers further back down the road, so it is coming down quickly, and that can be the problem when we see this group of, you know, Bonin, Gilbert, Christophe, when they make contact with the breakaway. Well, there's going to be a lot of the riders who want, you know, to get an easy ride and sit on the rear end of this group, and that's where it can, you know, become a bit of a problem. And if they start, you know, playing about it all, well then the main peloton will eat into their advantage, which is over a minute at the moment, and it's going to be an interesting one. The next, you know, and 15 kilometers I think will tell a lot. They can keep on pulling away from the main peloton, but I feel there's other teams, you know, sitting back in the peloton for the moment and waiting, because they have the distance on their side. 76.4 kilometers to the finish. It's a long ways out, but again, when the hills start coming up and, you know, these difficult uphill cobble sections, that's where the main peloton will just, you know, break to pieces once again.
Well, you've got a proper engine room here as well, some real strength in depth, and I suggest that Sylvain Chavanel is coming to the fore right now. He'd love to work for himself, or indeed for Kokar, and work rate is the problem back here, as you can see. Greg van Avermaet is not there, Peter Sagan is not there. Some big names, in fact the two principal favourites, I guess you might say, at the beginning of the day.
Take 100% care of John.
Take 100% care of John. They know where their main weapon lies. That's John Degenkolb, of course, Sean. They've got Jesper Stuyven up the road. He might well be used as a foil, but they want to look after John Degenkolb. No surprise there. Well, finally, we know who is their primary choice today, and this is about putting out fires right now, though, isn't it?
Yes, well, I think you have to play a number of cards here at this point in the race. You know, a long ways to the finish and a lot of difficult sections still to come. So, not surprising, you know, Dirk de Mol calling there back to the riders in the main peloton, look after John, because if this break doesn't succeed, well then he's going to be, you know, called, and they'll be expecting him to be able to, you know, contest this race in the final. And I think it's a good situation for the likes of you know, Trek Segafredo. When you have a rider out in front, you're not having to do the chasing back in the main peloton, so you can, you know, you can conserve your riders for later into the day.
Thanks to Phil Moore and Al Kirby, keeping it in the family, Al. Yes, Jens Kirkeleo at DNS this morning. Apologies for that. They're absolutely right. Here is the push in, 2 minutes and 24 back to the peloton. It's a minute and 13 as it stands. They're finding seconds by seconds, and that's the way to do it, Sean. You want to stay away, but you don't want to kind of go on an overt attack at the moment. It's about maintaining your pace and extending the advantage so that you don't diminish your own resources, albeit within a highly talented group.
Yes, well, I think what they want to do here is, you know, they want to try and get as many riders in this 14-man group of Bonin and Gilbert, and you know, try and just pull out the advantage at an easier pace, because it's still a long way to go.
No stress, there are a lot of teams, so you have to keep pulling like this and we'll be fine. So time gap is 1 minute with those 14 guys, and remember, it's Christophe inside, it's Bonin, it's Demar.
They're worried, no surprise. Peter Sagan came here, the world champion is kind of used to winning, and when he doesn't win, then he's used to at least controlling and deciding the fate of those around him. That's the talent of the man, but you can never count for ill fortune, and we've got another bump and bruise, I'm afraid, and in fact they're raining out today, so many of them. Marco Haller on the deck, and I think that's the second or third time for him as well. 1 minute now from less than, in fact, of our talented push. Oh, Sunweb, of course, all over the place as well. it's getting worse. That's Nicholas Arndt would have been a potential for them, maybe Soren Kragh Andersen as well, but I'm afraid that Sunweb not repeating the feat, at least for the time being, of what's gone on in the women's race. They have got some joy already with Corinne Rivera taking victory in the women's race for that team. They'll take a feed, but how much will they take on board? If you're in a select group, you can get service on the road. The main body of the peloton don't have that luxury and have to grab the nose bags, as the lovely late David Duffield used to say. Time to feed up for some energy. 51 seconds now. They're closing in on the breakaway. What are they going to do with them, Sean, when they find them? Sail straight by, break their hearts, just push on?
Well, I think they will have to push on the breakaway. There's a lot of trial riders up there, sorry, and the breakaway with the composition of that, a lot of big names there. They will want to continue pushing on, but we can see here, in the main peloton, I think things are starting to liven up a bit more, and quite a number of teams. We can see Bora pushing on, AG2 All and Mondial, BMC also very much in the mix here. Lotto Soudal, they should be also contributing a bit, because they haven't got anybody up in that group of the other big favourites. So I feel that this one looks like I think it's going to be the peloton who are going to be eat into the advantage of the breakaway. But again, you never know if they really commit out front. Who knows?
Well, yeah, who knows? That's what's so fabulous about this race. We said what you need to succeed here, and it's not just skill and determination, fortitude and strength. Luck counts for an awful lot, and strategy likewise. We've got the mix out front. I guess you've got to be lucky and take your chances where you can get them, and grabbing hold of it with both hands at the moment. Tom Bonan, Philippe Gilbert, Matteo Trentin, all from Quick-Step, the strongest team here. We said that they had the advantage of strategy. The strongest individual riders surely had to be Greg Van Avermaet and indeed Peter Sagan. But they've missed out, and their teams are having to work very hard indeed. And look what's happening further back. One touch of wheels, and then there's even more riders who have their heart broken by being caught behind an incident. And at this pace, when the all alarm bells are ringing for some of the principal favourites today, because they're not in a group that contains these guys. Gilbert on the front, the Belgian champion, pushing on. Tom Bonan, part of the engine room. Sylvain Chavanel and Brian Cocard, both from Direct Energy. And these, I'm afraid, are the hares that are about to be savaged by the hounds that are on their case right now. And they, of course, are also on a climb. And this is where they come thick and fast. This is the Canaryberg, and they're not singing, I can tell you. 14%, and it's a tough one. 1 kilometre this deep into the race, after 190 kilometres of racing, and still with over 70 to go, as you can see. And kicking straight off the back of this, we have a trio of absolute nightmare. Real hurt coming in about 16 kilometres time. Claremont, bang. Paderberg, bang. Koppenberg, 1, 2, 3. The Tyenberg, which is, of course, Tom Bonan's favourite climb as well, where he's done so much damage in the past. Could this be a fairy tale ending to Tom Bonan's career? He's still, of course, got the Shoulder Price and the Paris-Roubaix to come. But what a day it would be, as Cocard is that rolls to the front right now. And we look back through this group, and you see Gianni Moscon working for Luke Rowe as well. Sasha Modolo's in here. Van Speybrook as well for Wanty Group Gobert. Jesper Stuyven, principal for Trek Segafredo. It's an amazing fighting force, Sean. They could do it, but will they?
Well, yes, they could do it, and we can see here, the main peloton still just, working away. More riders starting to appear here, and we can see Bernie Eisel back in the affairs and pushing on here on the front end of the main part of the peloton. We did see a moment ago this group is one part of the main peloton, but just a little bit further back there was another very big group of riders. So I think the crash we see also possibly the Muir of Gersberg, and that really split the peloton, and that's what's done the damage here. Anybody who was a bit too far off going on to the Muir, well then they've paid dearly here, and it's nervous times for some of the big favourites that have missed out on this split in the peloton.
Well, as you can see, we've got a few riders just working for a gentle block, let's put it that way. Meanwhile, this is the chasing group. Yes, Alexander Kristoff has made it up to the fore, which is great news for Team Katusha. Tony Martin, you saw him just bouncing, just maintaining his rhythm back there, but not, of course, pushing on at all. Why on earth would he? Here is Lotto. They've got to work very, very hard, and you've got to kind of go round guys like Tony Martin. That's a difficult thing to do when he's minded just to drift a little on the climb. Upsets the rhythm of the chasers. Near perfect strategy, you might say. Well, let's see, shall we? Here we are. Time to dig in for action. Malio Trent in for quick step on the front, and that is Brian Kokar, and they're starting to catch some of the original breakaway that have been out there for so long today, Sean.
Yes, we can see that the breakaway is starting to really split up out front. We can see there's 2 riders already from that original 8-man breakaway who have been swallowed up by that second group on the road, Bone and Gilbert, and the rest of the big favourites. So it's starting, to really test the riders who are not, up to this level of racing. And the distance, of course, when you go over the 200 kilometres, that's when it really starts to kick in. And for some riders, it's kicked in already.
It has, and the pain is raining down on some of these. As you can see, some of the teams have got men in the break. They're just making sure that any move to add a little of impetus is kind of marked out at the moment. They're acting as anchors as they come through the Canary Bear themselves. It's the Clermont next, Sean, for the second time of asking today.
Yes, well, that's where it's going to be difficult, and I think we could see some action from that main part of the peloton. The favourites that has not made this split here, they have to try and do something, unless the riders who are riding on the front, their teammates, and a lot of teams here are starting to appear. We can see, the teams that have missed out, BMC, Orica, Astana, Lotto, they're all starting to appear on the front of the peloton. We can see the gap is coming down, but it's coming down very slowly.
Wow, Lotto must be licking their wounds. BMC likewise. I think Orica Scott, they had plenty of options. One less, of course, after Jens Kirkelaar didn't start today. Runner-up in the Ghent Wevelgem, but Luke Durbridge, I'm afraid, disappointed, but on fine form in Japan. I think he had high hopes for today. Unfortunately, within the group that is out front and about to bridge to these guys, De Vol, Troyer, Plankett, Van Summeren, remainders with Jens Maurice as well. They've only got 27 seconds on a group that they know is rapidly approaching. Good, I guess, that for Direct Energy, they've ridden a sensible race today. They've had men where they need to be throughout, and 2 of them are within the chase, this quality group that we keep talking about, Chabanel and Kokar. 25 seconds only. In fact, the peloton is pushing on, but they're sacrificing themselves again and again, I'm afraid. Lotto Soudal doing a big turn to try and chase back in. I would have started the top of the day thinking, well, we've got Galopin, we've got Bernot, we've got De Busker and Greipel if it's down to the quick men. They're being lent on right now, and BMC as well, all hands to the pump for them with Greg van Avermaet. The team that's been quiet in the chase is Bora. Peter Sagan does not seem to have called for action just yet. Maybe their energies are depleted. No surprise there on this great race. Welcome back. 67 kilometres remaining today, and our breakaway group has been absorbed. Bodnar is up the road for Bora Hansgrohe, and so I guess Peter Sagan may well have an excuse. Bodnar has got a chance, the pole, on what's been a great year for the poles so far. So this group has become rather larger. Now, I suggest that they may well stay together as a fighting force as the 2 front groups amalgamate. But when we take the Clermont next time by, we have 10 kilometres where we have 3 climbs in very short order, including the Paterberg and indeed the Koppenberg. So it's going to be a very difficult task to all stay together. I don't think they'll be wishing to do so anyway, because once we've unwound from that, there'll be around about 40 kilometres remaining. And then, of course, we still have, 4 climbs after the second passage. Once we've dealt with the Koppenberg, I beg your pardon, we'll still have, just double checking, yeah, we'll still have 5 climbs indeed to deal with. So it's a tough ask, but the group may well have the answers. I guess we're going to find out, or we're not. Here they are. 66 kilometres to go, clickety-click, as they say as bingo callers, and somebody's going to get the lucky card today. They're busy playing it out front. Maciej Bodnar is up front for Bora Hansgrohe. It gives them a modest excuse not to work on the front, you might think. Well, they're not playing that card, they're working. And why are they working? Because Peter Sagan's not there, so Maciej Bodnar's effort in getting in the group of talent, I guess at least he can keep some fresh legs. Orica Scott doing a lot of work for Luke Durbridge. You can see him about P6 there, bearded and grizzly, and it's been a grisly day for him, I'm afraid. It's not worked out the way that they had hoped, but he's not alone. BMC are having to work for Greg van Avermaet. Lotto Soudal having to work for their principals as well. Tony Galopin and Chase Benoit, and maybe Andre Greipel if he managed to get over. He'll be spitting nails as well, I can tell you. So the group's swollen up front as it absorbs the initial breakaway and becomes sizable. Maybe too big, Sean, would you say?
Well, I think it could be a problem. Some of the breakaway riders that they have, pulled back, they are not going to contribute here. And now it's a group of about 22 riders, I make it. And that can really upset the organisation of this group, because they have been working well together to pull back the breakaway. But when your riders start sitting on the rear, well, then other riders start looking and the discussion starts. And if they start doing that, but we're coming into a section, I think, where the riders from the original breakaway of the day, they're going to start paying the price as well for the effort. And with what we've got on the menu coming up very quickly, it comes thick and fast. I think this group of around 22 riders, the leading group, it will split up a lot on the next number of difficult sections.
Well, we're coming into the town of Clermont in a few moments' time as we cross over a boundary in Kloosbergen. The Oude Clermont is, of course, the old Clermont Road. One of those roads that was preserved, saved, stopped from being asphalted or metalled, as some would describe it. Marcel Zeberg, well, he did a big turn on the front for Lotto, and I'm afraid that is the price that you pay. He's working, of course, for his teammates, Chase Benoit and Tony Galopin potentially, and maybe Andre Greipel, German champion. But I think it might be a case of what might have been for these guys. 43 seconds is the gap. Now, you might be thinking, well, how can you write them off? We're not, but they're going to have to work hard, and it goes out again to 44 seconds. It depends on the work rate and indeed the efficacy, the effectiveness of that talented group up front, and whether they can continue to work together. If they don't, they'll fall into the clutches of these guys. But the effort that they will have put to tag them and work them back into this main pack will, I'm afraid, have a cost at the end. So right now it looks like Greg van Avermaet, unless he's being amazingly well hidden within the main peloton, is going to have an issue late on. Likewise, Peter Sagan. They could turn it round though, Sean. We will find out in the next 64 kilometres.
Yes, we will. I think we'll find out sooner than later. With under 64 kilometres to go, the Oude Clermont, it comes in at 54.6 to go. I think the tactic of the teams will be, try and ride as hard and as fast as possible on the front of the peloton, and to take this gap down as much as possible up to this group of big favourites. And then I think we could see Peter Sagan, Greg van Avermaet and some of the other ones trying to come across on the Oude Clermont, and you can do that if they can get it down to 30 seconds. I think the riders we're talking about, the shape they're in at the moment, that is possible.
It is. Getting a free ride at the moment are the rest of the Cannondale group, because Sepp van Mark, their main weapon, is up front, but Dylan van Baal may well take advantage if the work is done on his behalf. The likes of Cannondale, indeed the other teams that are in the break, if you've got a secondary card to play, or even 2 or 3 remaining, then you can take a real advantage, Sean, about not having to do the chase here before the hardest part of the course, the latter part where we go Clermont, Peterberg, and of course the Koppenberg as well. 1, 2, 3 climbs, all within 10 kilometres of each other.
Yes, well, if you have a team with a number of riders capable of getting into the final of this Tour of Flanders, well then, if you're in a situation like Katusha, for example, with Christoph up the road, Tony Martin, he's getting a free ride, and he's normally the rider in past where he would have to be riding, for some of the other bigger classic riders, the bigger classic names in a race like the Tour of Flanders. So riders like that, if it comes back together, those are the ones who could benefit from the situation at the moment.
Yes, whenever Tony Martin decides to go for it, I almost hear Formula 1 gear changes in my head. He is absolutely remarkable when he needs to be. He gets up to full cruise, and he's just stunning when he's allowed to go. And he's going to have that card to play today, potentially. We'll see how fresh Christoph is towards the end. I think Christoph is in a terrific position at the moment. Most of the work is being done by Quick-Step Floors. They don't like it, Sean, but they've got three principal riders here in Bonin, Gilbert and Trentin, and they're accepting the task for now, at least amongst that front group.
Yes, well, I think for Quick-Step Floors, you know, they are in a real strong position. If this breakaway could survive, well, then they have three very good riders out front, and you know, the three riders, I think any of them could, you know, win this Tour of Flanders in the end. So they are committed, and they've been committed for a long time. But you know, it's not only the Quick-Step riders are committed. A lot of the other favourites as well are riding here in the front group, but we can see 36 seconds at the moment. The peloton are just grinding this one down.
There's a work rate issue at the moment. It's Orica Scott who are sacrificing themselves with Astana and BMC. BMC working for Greg Van Avermaet and Jempe Drucker. Of course, Orica Scott working for Luke Durbridge and potentially Luca Mezgets as well. We'll see. A trio of hurt coming up. Claremont any moment now. In fact, in 4 kilometres time. Bonin decides to test. He issues a cattle prod to everybody. Trentin is with him, his teammate, but Philippe Gilbert is in the pack, and there he is, the tricolor of the Belgian champion, being worked for here. Bonin's doing a lot, so is Matteo Trentin. So you can see where their strategy lies. Bonin and Trentin pushed off, and Christoph it was that bridged over to them for Katusha. The strongman sails into this corner, has to take it easy, you might think. Well, with 34 seconds only back to the pack, where they are working so very hard. We've seen the call to arms by Trek Segafredo. Kind of feel sorry for Jesper Stuyven, who's up there, but they're working, of course, for John Degenkolb, their principal. They want him up towards the front. 33 seconds they've got as we take on this trio of climbs. We're not there yet. We're on sort of polished brick. Once we get to the Claremont, we've got 1,500 metres of the 2.2 Ks of its length, which is cobbled. That will be for the second time of asking. A huge roar from the Claremont crowd will be. 11.6% is going to hurt, but then again, so is the chase here. 33 seconds, Sean. Are they close enough to make it count over these next 3 climbs of the remaining tests?
Yes, I think it's looking good for the main peloton. We can see 33 seconds at the moment, and they are really pushing on. The difficult one now is, you know, you have to be in the front of affairs, because there surely will be something done by Van Avermaet, Sagan, the riders who have missed the breakaway here, and you have to be real careful. We did hear the Trek Segafredo team director Dirk de Mol telling, be careful guys, keep our man in the front, keep him close to the front end of affairs, and with the advantage at the moment, I think the riders who have been riding back in the peloton on the front of affairs, they're going to pay the price here, and it's going to be down to the big favourites who have missed out to correct the situation here.
Well, apparently the protected rider, I would guess, from Quick-Step is Philippe Gilbert. Now, if there's one man who could go through these climbs and then push on, don't be surprised if Gilbert has a dig from about 40 kilometres out when we get to the last flat pavé section. Mariaborstraat, before we take on the Steenbeck Trees, the Tallenberg, the Kruisberg, the Claremont and the Paterberg for the last time of asking. It's a theatre of war we've got here, Sean, and we're on the Claremont.
Yes, we're onto the Claremont, and I think, you know, there's a lot of riders here. Let's not forget Luke Rowe. He's also a rider who has proven in the past can, you know, go the distance. Demar also, he is a rider, you know, who is in the classics. He has been promising in the past, and he's an up-and-coming one as well. So there's a lot of names there who you can also throw into the hat, and we're on, you know, the very important part now, the Quaramount, and it's going to be an interesting one. You know, how strong will they climb it out in the breakaway, and back in the peloton, how fast will they come up from the rear?
Well, not many were talking about Luke Rowe ahead of this one. I certainly was, if you saw our previews here on Eurosport. Luke Rowe is a fighting force, and I think he's in a great position. A lot of people were talking about Ian Stannard, but no disrespect to Ian, he's a great rider. Luke Rowe is the man, and he is out in the front group at the moment. They've got to fight for this. They've got to fight almost through the crowds, as you can see. And Gianni Moscon also along with Luke Rowe. Great ally for him to have. And there is Luke Rowe, rangy figure he is. Number 102 for Team Sky, and he doesn't want to miss out if this starts to shatter. Most of those who have being jettisoned were in the early break. 4 of those going backwards as everyone else continues to vault forward, and they're extending the lead. 38 seconds now, as maybe some teams are just complaining about work rate, not too sure. It's a difficult technical to get to this point, and in fact there's not much space for the pack, who are still together behind them trying to chase into this incline. They're going to have to work wonders, I think, as Philippe Gilbert rolls to the fore. Why not?
Yes, well, we can see Gilbert, he's looking, very impressive at the moment, really pushing on here. And immediately when they hit the couple section, the riders who were out in the breakaway at the earlier part of the day, 3 or 4 of those riders losing contact immediately, and we can see here it's really hurting at the moment. But again, there's a long line of riders, and they need to try and hold a group of riders together, because Philippe Gilbert, the way he's climbing here at the moment, to goal from this point alone, it would be a real big ask to do it. And you have to use, I think, the manpower up in front. Let's not forget, back in the main peloton, there's still a lot of riders who we cannot count out of this race.
No, very much so. But Philippe Gilbert, is it a knockout blow or just one of a few that he's issuing at the moment? He went very long on occasion, Sean, within the 3 days of Depana, and right now he's got himself a healthy advantage. It's the man that's being forced to chase in, taking a free ride, and a well-deserved one is Matteo Trentin at the moment, as if there's any such thing within this group. Sepp van Mark within that group as well. Tom Bonen as well, looking breathy, but Philippe Gilbert has gone here. This is a serious one with 55 kilometres to go.
Yes, it's an impressive attack. He shows the power he's got, and the way he's been riding in the last number of weeks is coming out once again. We can see that. But will he continue alone here? I don't think he will. With 55 kilometres to go, with the group behind, they still have to try and get organised after getting over this climb, and try and work together if they're going to hold off the main peloton. Because if they start looking around behind, well, then they will be swallowed up by the front end of the main peloton, and then for Gilbert to continue alone, it would be a huge ask.
It would be a huge ask. Big question being asked at the moment is where's Sagan? Well, he's just dropped in the front of your screen, at the bottom of your screen, I should say, which means that he's at the head of this group. He's working very hard. So are BMC, of course, going all in for Greg van Avermaet, and this is the reason why Philippe Gilbert is a huge danger here. A tricolor almost getting in the way of the man. Like a matador's cape, he gets whipped away at the very last moment, but he's still bullish and going for this. So is Sepp van Mark, picks himself up, and Tom Bonen staying with it. And of course also there is Luke Rowe doing a fantastic job at the moment. 54.8 kilometres remaining of this day, and it's you cannot know how this one is going to pan out. But what we do know is that there's some very brave riding out there, and Philippe Gilbert amongst the bravest of them all at the moment. He's been fabulous this season, Sean. He's made the switch to Ethics, to quick-step floors, and it seems to have paid off. He's found a home where he can thrive, and he's thriving right now.
Yes, very much so. But again, we see going from a bit too far out. Sometimes when you're really good, that's the time you can make mistakes, and you feel that you're unbeatable. Myself, when I was in my good days in the Tour of Flanders, there was one occasion I think I made a lot of mistakes when I sat back in the evening time, and that is the problem with bike racing. When you feel really good, you can just make those efforts earlier on, but you can pay dearly in the end.
You can indeed. I think that's Andre Greipel who's doing a hell of a lot of work out towards the front of the chasers at the moment. They've taken the clock out. As you can see, we're looking at the peloton right now with 54 kilometres remaining. We were talking, when we were dwelling on that before we came to air, Sean, that Andre Greipel has burnt himself out on more than one occasion, and maybe scorched himself unnecessarily. This man, though, is in charge of the heat control, I suggest, and he's put it onto full burn right now.
Yes, well, certainly on the Quaremont there, the way he climbed up that, just rode away from the riders that are with him. There's such a talented group of riders here, and he just put 10-15 seconds of a gap into them so quickly. And now we can see they're starting to look about here, and this is going to be the problem one, because they're going to get swallowed up from behind by some of the front end of the main peloton.
Yes, they are, and up towards that pointy end is Peter Sagan. Haven't seen Greg van Avermaet yet, but you can be sure he's absolutely there, and they're rocking and rolling with it as well. And here is Sagan. As you can see, the Sagan group, it's also caused something of a split, and they're now absorbing those who were part of the initial breakaway today. 55 seconds, the secondary group behind Philippe Gilbert. Oh, tumble! My goodness, and a hard one as well. Oh, that's an absolute disaster. Well, that's a real shame, and it's from our front group, is it? Nightmare. I'm hoping that's not Luke Rowe. We'll catch it in a few moments' time, I hope. And that looks like that's not Van Mark's machine, is it? Oh, yes, my goodness.
Yes.
Zep Van Mark, and he tagged Luke Rowe at the same time. That is over for Van Mark, I'm afraid. Let's have a look at it. Here's your group. Let's see who tags who. Oh, Van Mark just went down, not quite sure even how, and takes Luke Rowe down with him, Sean.
Yes, Van Mark just seems to go down. Didn't not look like he touched anybody. Just went down and took Luke Rowe with him. Did he break something on the bike? It looks like that was the problem. Wow,
what a rhythm breaker apart from anything else for Luke Rowe. I feel so sorry for him, and of course for Zep Van Mark himself. He's in no hurry at the moment, and they just want to guide him to the side of the road. He's still in a bit of shock. He took a big hit there, Sean.
Yes, took a very big hit, and not sure if he did touch the wheel or if it was a mechanical. Did he slip out of the pedal? Looked like he wasn't that close to the rider in front of him, but Luke Rowe had no chance to get around him, and also coming down, and that's really going to take from the manpower up front also.
Well, that's a real shame for Luke Rowe, who's looking so good, being guided by Gianni Moscon, I'm afraid. Here, though, is Philippe Gilbert. Safest place to be, it seems, is on your own, and Philippe Gilbert is exactly that. And look at that, Sean, he's got nearly half a minute on those in his wake, and he's driving this on. He's up the Paterberg right now. Max is at 20.3%. He's been taking these seated, and that's exactly what he's doing at the moment.
Yes, well, he's looking very impressive at the moment, the way he's climbing here. And this climb, it's a real steep one. He's on the difficult section here, but just sitting in the saddle and just pumping away on those pedals, looking real good. And amazing, he's 28 seconds up on that chasing group, 55 seconds back to the main part of the peloton, and we can see there he's just trying to ride on that little 4 inches of more smooth cobblestone, and having a difficulty holding on there. And we can see here back in the rest of the breakaway, no real push on for the moment.
Gosh, such drama that we've had here today, and such heartbreak for some as well. I'm still waiting to see, because I haven't had definitive that it was Luke Rowe, either he or Gianni Moscon. I believe it was Rowe, but forgive us if not. It was a long view and we had a flash of it only, I'm afraid. And here we are as it's digging for glory. Tom Bonan still doing some work here, but they don't have to do quite as much as the man out front, who's doing a phenomenal amount of work. And indeed, that is Moscon, so it was Luke Rowe that was tagged, Sean.
Yes, it looked like Luke Rowe, certainly, and he's got back on his bike, hopefully, not too much damage, and we can see here, some of the main peloton coming up, so he will be able maybe to get back in there with those guys. 52 seconds at the moment, and Gilbert, holding on to that just under the half-minute advantage.
One more time, says the near Banksy-esque picture there upon your screen as they sail through, and Jesper Stuyven's made it over.
Yes, just about Stuyven. I think he's in difficulty. We could see another rider from the Trek Segafredo team, coming across. So that is an interesting one. It looked like Fabio Fellini, the Italian rider, and we did hear from Dirk de Mol, just be careful. And so that tells that there's some riders still able to come across from the main peloton.
There is Zep Van Mark. He's back upon his bike, but I'm afraid torn and bowed, Sean. He's a brave rider. He's had so many nearly times. The front wheel it was that just drifted away from him. I wonder if it's the centering of the road. Let's have a look at it right now. Now watch the man in green. Here we go. Watch his front wheel. Front wheel time. Well, nowhere, I'm afraid, for Luke Rowe to go. Just crashed upon him. And in fact, it was lucky for some others that they managed to escape. But a hard hit for Van Mark, and just cannot even see. I think it was the centre of the road, that where the concrete plates actually meet, that misguided him.
Yes, it looks like we can see now, the closer shot here. A little bit of a gap between the concrete, and he just got caught in that one.
Let's have a look. Dead centre, almost tram lining then. Leans in, there it is. Misguided even momentarily where the overbanding was missing. Luke Rowe collected. They both take a hard hit, and I suggest that that is possibly an end of their contention today. Then again, we said the same thing about Kittel when he went down recently, and he gets himself back up and only goes and wins a stage. Adrenaline's a strange thing. .4 kilometres out is where we are at the moment. Coquard at the front, and that was a bit of a shocker for these guys, but Philippe Gilbert has managed to push himself away. Just looking through this group and seeing who else might well be able to make it back on. Trek are here, and I believe that Greipel's also here, and of course Sagan is using every single one of his wily ways to make it up as well, Sean. And suddenly the green light has been given to Cannondale to go and have some fun, and it's Van Baal and Albert Bettiol who are trying to push on into this gap. There's a reassembly, but Gilbert's on his own with 37 margin.
Yes, and we can see here Sagan just in a group a little bit off the tail end of the group of all the big favourites, and there has been a regrouping up here with the Bonin group. We can see Sagan just trying to get a little bit of pacing from the motorbike. He has 15 seconds to make up, but a lot of riders, not prepared to work with him, and he's going to have to try and get into this one very quickly. He has made it actually. You can see him here just in the background behind Chavanel.
And here he is, in fact. He's embedded within the main group, and that doesn't bode well for anyone here. Don't expect to see any more driving work from Tom Bonin or indeed Matteo Trentin. 40 seconds is what Gilbert has with 48.1. If Gilbert lands it today, Sean, this will be one of the biggest individual efforts at this level that we have seen. I wish him the very best, but it's a tall order.
It is a real tall order, and you have to hand it to him that he goes at this point over 50 kilometres out, going the attack alone. It's very difficult to see him succeeding here, because with the group coming together now, and there's more riders coming back into that group of the original breakaway of Philippe Gilbert. So I think there's teams there with riders who will sacrifice and will push on, but the way things have been changing, Van Mark of course getting into difficulty, Luke Rowe also getting into difficulty there, and that is going to have a bearing on what's going to happen here in this group. Yeah,
well, why not? And if you're brave, like Fellini most certainly is from Trek Segafredo, brave can pay. There is Greipel just getting into the back of this group as well. Seeing who else is joining it, Sebastian Langeveld just coming back into it. And that is Greipel up towards the head of proceedings with the Christophe group as well. Goodness me, Philippe Gilbert has 43 seconds. Will it be enough? Peter Sagan has used all his wiliness to get into that now swollen group, which includes Tom Bonin, Christophe et al. He's there too, and all of a sudden it seems that the engine room has been diminished. Well, Fabio Fellini has decided that he is going to have some fun as well. A few moments ago he pushed on and went for it. So Fellini is now on a chase down at the moment with Trek Segafredo. He was the man, Fellini, who said that he didn't have the experience on the cobbles. Well, he's showing some real wily technique right now as he starts to eat into this gap. He's got company. I think it's Bettiol from Cannondale after Van Mark went down. We'll get a check on that in a moment. One thing we do know out front is that it's down to Gilbert. Let's have a listen.
Die, Fabio, die, 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 die. Die, just go.
Die meaning live. And indeed, live your dreams. And Feline,
Just go, man, just go.
just go. Well, why not? I'd love to see Feline deal with this. He's got a bridge over to Gilbert. There he is, rolled off the front. He's got company from Cannondale. Can Feline turn, as he described himself, a cobble amateur into something glorious? He's had some great days, Feline. He started a favourite for Milan-San Remo. Spoke about him before we came to air, Sean. And he's in a great place right now.
Yes, he is in a really good place. And the Cannondale rider there, we haven't seen who that is, but he's starting to ride with him. But just a very lean lead here on this group of about 20 plus riders. Can he pull out an advantage? But Gilbert, he's quite a bit further up the road. We can see there's a number of riders here, wanting to keep the pace on the front of this group still at a high pace.
Some real fast men here as well, and they're kind of they're in a collective, almost a cooperative. And at the moment, that's exactly what they're doing, cooperating, and they'll be plunging knives into each other late on if this man gets caught. But what a brave run by him. That's a dangerous corner. That's indented hoardings. That's supposed to be covered with hard hoardings, by the way. And the legs of those barriers, I suggest, may well collect somebody if they come through in a mob-handed. He's able to thread it, Gilbert, but that's going to be a danger for those who follow. He's on the Koppenberg, Sean. This is the last of that trio of climbs that all come within 10 kilometers of each other, and there's barriers missing here which allows him to use the smoother rain gutters. We won't deny him, Sean. This is a brave push.
This is a great ride by Gilbert, but can he continue on, riding at this pace? Because still 44.7 to go, and he is in a real good position. We can see here the two riders, Feline and the rider from Cannondale, Van Baal, just pushing on here. They're still out in front of that group of the rest of the big favourites.
Well, if Van Baal and Feline join Gilbert, it could be between those three. He's able to use every part of this climb that he's on right now, and it is a punishing one, we remind you. It's all cobbles, but he's trying to find a little bit of earth towards the side, and here we are. They're starting to use whatever they can find, Sean, to their advantage, going one side of the road and the other. This is Feline in the red of Trek Segafredo, and Dylan Van Baal, who looks like he's just running out of a little bit of energy on this incline. No surprise or disrespect intended there. And look further back, Andre Greipel's having a great day as well, and he's got Peter Sagan's wheel to follow at the moment. He's playing it more clever, the gorilla, this time by, Sean.
Yes, well, we can see here, there's the front line, a lot of the big favourites. We can see Degenkolb, we can see Trent in there, so it's an interesting time. Van Baal having difficulty to make it over this one. Gilbert, fighting, and not surprising, because here on the Koppenberg, this is a very, very steep gradient, and with 44 kilometres to go, they have a lot of racing done, a lot of kilometres in the legs. Everybody's starting to feel the pain here at the moment. 5
climbs remaining. Get out of my way with your selfies. Gilbert almost disdainfully there goes for the gutter, which he seeks out. It's been a big thinning out of the pack here, but look who is chasing on, Sean. Talent will out, and we've got it on our screens right now.
Yes, we can see the man was a big favourite for today's race, so he's just starting to appear now on the front of affairs, and Van Avermaet just pushing on here. And with 44 kilometres to go, there's I think there's a lot more left in this race from the bigger favourites, and it'll be interesting to see who's going to take up the chase, because on the climb, okay, to make the pace you can do that, but to continue on, we can see Sagan there, we can see Degenkolb is also, Pozzato very much in the front end of affairs, and a lot of the quick step riders here on tow.
Well, Pozzato said, why not me? It could be anybody. Before today's race. There's Chavanella, who's part of that big push. There's Andre Greipel, who's made it over again. Let's remind everyone, Sean, if you get over the climbs, there's about 8 kilometres of flat towards the end, and it may well turn out to be a very selective sprint with some very capable quick men out front.
Yes, well, to get over the climbs will be the problem, because there's a lot more to come, and we have the Steam Bendries, which comes up very quickly, 39 kilometres to go, and then we have the Tyenberg again at 36 kilometres, and they're all going to really test the fitness of the riders now. Anybody is just starting to suffer, well, then they could start losing contact here, and if a rider like Sagan, Van Avermaet, some of those riders are able to put in an attack on the following climbs, I think we will see this chasing group really blow apart.
I'm so full of admiration for Philippe Gilbert. He's reinvented himself as if it needed to be done. Such a remarkable performer, and one of those that had become the nearly forgotten, I think it's fair to say. He's reinvigorated, and he's designed himself a fantastic palmarès, which continues to be written. A few years ago, we thought we'd seen the best of Philippe Gilbert. He's right back in the groove, Sean.
Yes, he certainly is, and we have seen the signs of that right from the beginning of the season, and of more recent, the past number of weeks, he's performing at a real high level, and here today, excellent ride from him, and the question is now, can he continue on the pace he's been setting, because he's really riding at a fast rate, and also I think what will decide this race for him, what happens here back in the main group, is the riders and teammates of riders who are prepared to really push on, because the advantage it's a slim one with the climbs they have to get over, and with 42.4 to the finish, it's a long way to go.
It's starting, as you can see. It's an assembly of talent that can't possibly stay together. Unfortunately, the internal structure is just too good. It's going to pull itself apart, essentially. Here is Gilbert. A dusty corner can be a dangerous corner, we remind you. And there's a lot of trodden earth that's been brought out into the sunshine and turned itself into near talcum powder. Let's hope that those who are chasing on don't get it wrong. We've seen Zet van Mark take a huge hit. And in fact, collect Luke Rowe is looking very, very good today. Bit of ill fortune, and here we come. Fingers crossed for everybody as they go round here. You get spat out to the left-hand side of the road on a right-hand curve. They get through, but little gaps starting to open up. No wind to speak of today. It's probably lucky because it's been so dusty. A near dust bowl being blown up by the helicopter. And Andre Greipel decides that he's going to punch on here. Big Andre, has he gone too soon, Sean? He's been guilty of putting in too much too soon.
Yes, well, we've seen that in the past where he goes in the attack at a point when you ask yourself, why is he doing it at the moment? But I think he's orders from the team director. We have got the two riders, Van Baal and Feline. Are they still up the road? I'm not sure situation, yes. But that could be the orders. So Greipel is starting to push on here, and for Lotto, Belisol, they have Lotto Sudal, sorry, they have to push on here because they are the ones who are going to be looked at to do the chasing here in this group.
Wow, 41.2 kilometres remaining. Should we just consider what we've still got to deal with here? The Maria Boldstad, the Steen Big Dries, the Tyenberg, the Kruisberg, and then, Sean, the Clermont and the Paterberg coming so late where this race will be decided. 16.7 kilometres out is where the Clermont peaks. And then, of course, with 13.2 remaining, the Paterberg, and all climbs are dealt with. It still rolls a bit until about 9 kilometres from home. And then it's near Straight Highway where we'll welcome home our winner, our champion. And I suggest today, whoever takes it will have earned it like no other. That's actually a strange thing to say, because this race, I'm correcting myself really, this race always provides such drama, and the decisions are made so late. Even when a rider arrives alone, he's had to work for that. Right now out front, Gilbert is doing a phenomenal job, but I fear for him, to be honest, as he comes on to this 2 kilometres of cobbles that are going to hurt the wrists and just about everything else, including chattering teeth. He's got a big task. Is he equal to it?
Well, I think I'm afraid that is going to be a difficult one for him. We're on this section of cobbles now, Mary Boerstrad, 2 kilometres, all very energy sapping sections here, and then we have 5 very difficult climbs to get over before we get into that final running of 13.2 kilometres the last time up the Patersberg. Gilbert, he's going to have to, put in the ride of his life here to hold on out here, because there is riders, starting to attack out of the main peloton, and in this part of the peloton, or the breakaway, there's a lot, I think, of firepower left here.
There is. Jesper Stuyven, we remind ourselves, is here. Fabio Fellini has already pushed on, but John Degenkolb is their chosen son today. You heard the team, Dirk de Mol, just amongst others, just screaming, Fabio, die, Fabio. What he meant was, invest everything you've got into the chase. I'm not sure whether that was wise words. 22 seconds is that gap to G2. That's the secondary chasing group, which includes Fabio Fellini and Dylan van Baarle. Out front, it is, of course, still Philippe Gilbert, but I think he may well have bitten up off more than he could chew. But then again, is he going to just chew up and spit out absolutely everybody? We'll find out now, I guess. Philippe Gilbert pushing on. Hard to find anyone braver today.
Very difficult to find anybody braver in 51 seconds. And let's not forget Fellini and Van Baarle. They're working together, they're sharing the pace setting, but they're not eating into the advantage of Gilbert. If anything, it's Gilbert who's pulling out second by second, and the group 3, 111 down. It's a nice advantage, and if Gilbert can keep on pushing on at this strong pace, that is the big question. Can he continue this all the way in the final 39.3 kilometres?
Well, I don't know what the Lotto Soudal Swanee said there, but I hope it was encouragement and nothing too distracting. Who knows? Of course, it is Quick Step Floors. Not that you can see the blue of their jerseys, because it's covered by the national flag of Belgium. Here's your intermittent riders at the moment. Dylan van Baarle, very, very capable youngster, and Fabio Fellini as well. This pairing is a proper fighting force, but unfortunately, it's a tall order for them as well. They're not eating into that gap, particularly with Philippe Gilbert. They hold a margin of 20 seconds only from a talented group, which includes a whole rack of other Trek Segafredo riders. I think they're sacrificing Fellini here on behalf of John Degenkolb, but Fellini's a very, very brave rider as well himself. Take nothing away from Dylan van Baarle. So much has been expected of DVB, but I'm afraid behind him he's got the likes of Greg van Avermaet, and indeed Peter Sagan, as well as Bonen. And here is Greipel, and he's chugging, Sean, but effectively?
Yes, he is chugging, and not surprising he's chugging on this section of cobbles. I think if you're really pushing on here, as Greipel is doing, you would be chugging at this point into the race. But it looks like that, he's not too far off of the two riders up front of him, and if he can make it across here, that will, add to the firepower of this chasing group. We can see here in the main group of big favourites, it looks like it's BMC who are continuing, to set the pace to keep this gap down to the minimum.
Tony Gallopin just hovering around the back here. There's Edvald Bosenhagen as well within that group, by the way. And there it is. Groups all over the place. No wind today, Sean, but it appears that there must have been. They've been blown apart, but it's by the actions of themselves. The peloton have worked so hard today for our entertainment. It's been glorious.
Yes, it's been a glorious day for bike racing, and I think it's just the race, a calm start, but they really, hit out earlier, and the first time up the Oude Quaremont, the Oude Quaremont, was the test, or the one before that again, which was the Gerersbergen, the Muir. That's where the damage was done, and that was a long ways from the finish. And I think that is going to take its toll on the riders that are not really at their best fitness level, or maybe not on the best day, because they have been racing very, very fast from a long way out in this one today.
Philippe Gilbert rides on. He's got a margin of 54 seconds from a committed Fabio Fellini and Dylan van Baarle. They themselves have an advantage, but as the Tyenberg beckons, this incidentally is Tom Bonen's favourite climb. It's where he usually does the damage, and it's his teammate Philippe Gilbert who's out front and doing the same, albeit hitting it with a margin of 55 seconds. He's got to dig very, very deep. It's very, very narrow here. The flags that been handed to the fans, almost tapping the shoulders of those, marking out a rhythm that's being set for us right now by this great rider. Philippe Gilbert is a beast, and at the moment he's monstering the course. 37.2 kilometers remaining. He's managed to dig himself over the top of the Tyenberg. It's only 530 meters of all cobbles, 15.8 at a maximum, and it introduces him. Next up, it will be the Kreisberg. We still have the Quermont and the Paterberg, which is the double punch at the end. And who knows, these guys may well hold on to a gap, but I fear for them, to be honest. The motorcycles coming through should really have waited until this one is unwound, almost got into the fans and bumped his way back. I hope there's a fine waiting for that motorcycle rider. There wasn't space to go through there, Sean, and rhythm can be broken at any moment.
Yes, we could see there he just pushed through at a time when he could have backed off a little bit and wait, and that's something as the motorbikes, you ask yourself, what is the rush trying to make it? As we think, Boland has a difficulty here with his rear derailleur.
Nightmare. It's mashed itself, I'm afraid, and that is going to be a big problem. Tom Bonan, he's on the blower, and he won't like this. Oh, he won't like this at all. He takes a beat on. They've got the spare bike close at hand, but he's away. But at what cost, Sean, for a great man?
Yes, well, this is a really bad time to have a mechanical, because in the final 36 kilometres, we can see once again having a problem. The chain is coming off, and it's something you certainly do not need at this point in the race. If
the bike's not set to the gear that he wants, he's going to have to churn it on a difficult time. It looks like he's mashed another mech. Third bike coming now. The question is it going to be the right size for him? Do they keep two spares for a man like Bonan? Surely no room for that on a team that is so rack full of talent, and he's not happy at all. Issuing the swear words, the oaths skywards, I'm afraid. And meanwhile, here is Peter Sagan, and he's starting to light up here, Sean.
Yes, I think this is going to be the problem for Bonan. Mechanical problem you certainly do not need at that point, and then waiting for the bikes, getting your spare bike and that not being correct, and you having to make a change again, I think is going to be very difficult to see him coming back here. And with the race starting up front, Sagan pushing on here at this point. Van Avermaet also here coming up to join up with Peter Sagan. For Tom Bonan, a disaster.
Well, Ollie Nason, who was third in the E3, he's had top tens as well in the Omloop and the Kern Brussels Kern. Loves the Quermont. Well, he's in a terrific place for AG Tour Le Mondial. It may well be something of a surprise out there today. We'll see. You've got to ride your luck, Sean, and right now Tom Bonan's got none.
Certainly not. He's had a disaster there with the mechanical, and we can see here, the riders pushing on at the moment. It's over for Tom Bonan. He's not going to get back into the front end of affairs with just over 35 kilometres to go. As we can see, two of the big favourites up in front. That looks like Trentin is just about to crawl his way back into this group of three riders. So
Greg Van Avermaet with Peter Sagan, with Ollie Nason and Matteo Trentin also there. We've got a rider just trying to get on as well from Wanty Group Gobert, doing a good job of it as well. Of Johan Alfredo, I believe it is. So there we are, 58 seconds to Philippe Gilbert. Wow. Well, how does this one start to shake out is anybody's guess. You've got to love Flanders, except of course if it bites you on the backside. I'm afraid they've taken a big piece out of Tom Bonan back there. Sagan, Trentin, Alfredo and the rest, including of course Greg Van Avermaet. Now, what can they do? Questions answered here. Live on Eurosport, your home of cycling. Oh, 56 seconds is what Gilbert's got. Sean, we said, is it too early? Is the man crazy? Is he possessed? He's given to these long-range pushes, and he's got the quality to cope with the climbs. He's got the pace, and he's been time trialing brilliantly. All of those factors have been rolled in. Let's have a look here. This was the moment where Bonan looked down and realized that he had a serious problem. Unfortunately, Sagan sails by him at the moment, given to attacking. Why not? You cannot wait up for everybody, because you never know when ill fortune is going to strike. There are no favours here.
No, well, you cannot wait up for anybody at this point in the race. The race is on, and we could see there it was Alfredo, who just attacked from the 1T group. Tom Bowen was following me, looking pretty comfortable, but something went wrong with his chain drive, and he had to just make the change, and then had to make a second change. And now the situation is for Tom Bowen, it's it's race over. I think it would be very, very surprising if he can get back into the front of affairs. If he does, well, that would be an extraordinary ride. And with the position Tom Bowen was in, perfect, because when they went in the attack, Sagan Van Avermaet with his teammate out front, he could afford just to sit on affairs, and he was in a real good position to challenge for a win or for a good place in this Tour of Flanders.
Wow, the Italian Dai, by the way, is come on, please oblige me. Thanks to POV for sending that in. Basic Italian. But there it is. Yeah, go for it. And he is doing, but look who is chasing down. Sagan Trentin, Nason Van Avermaet. In no particular order. Alfredo is probably feeling exactly that, I'm afraid, because Van Avermaet and Sagan, they started off as favourites today. Would you still say, Sean, that they have a major option on the day? It certainly looks that way.
Yes, it looks like that. They still have a lot to say in this race, the way it's coming down at the moment, and we can see Van Avermaet really pushing on, and we've seen him in the past, the way he can ride in the final. That's where the real power, the talent comes to the top. And still with 33 kilometres to go, 54 seconds now for this group of 7 riders. Trentin, of course, from Quick Step Floors, he's in a real good position because he's going to play the cards, and he can do that. He's going to sit on this one. He doesn't have to contribute at all because he's got a teammate up the road.
Fantastic. Well, how's it going to pan out? Peter Sagan is, of course, being lent on. He's used to it. The question is, what alliance will they form? Well, we'll find out.
Tom, ik heb al hier. Die komen alle twee ertussen. Alle twee geblokkeerd. Ik denk dat er niet tussenuit zit. Nu is er wel tussen. Geen ene wel. We geven een andere. Geef hem, kom.
Not a happy camp, I don't think. Of course, discussing the problems of Tom Bonen. Well, they've got only one card to play, I suggest to you, Sean. No disrespect to the rest of the team right now. And, of course, Matteo Trentin is trying to push in. But Gilbert's up the road, the Belgian champion. He's got a minute. But on a minute, he has a minute from a spectacular group of talent as well. Not suggesting Philippe Gilbert would not be included within such a group. But right now, he's got to work alone, and the others have got help.
Yes, and when you look at the situation, Philippe Gilbert has been out in the front for a long time, and that effort, can he sustain that effort? That is the big question now. With still over 30 kilometres to go, and we can see here the chasing group, they're sharing the pulling on the front, and that is going to be the difficult one. We could hear there, back in the quick step car, not a happy camp at all. With Tom Bowen, it seemed to be, he was saying, it came between, it looks like the chain went down between the chain ring and the frame, and the two of them, the 2 bikes got blocked exactly the same, and that's just taken Tom Bowen out of this race.
What a shame. Of course, his last Flanders, the man who's won 3, he was hoping for 4. Not going to be the case, I'm afraid. We've seen so much ill fortune today, Sean. I don't think we're finished with it, are we?
No, well, that is the Tour of Flanders, of course. The train, you go over the cobblestones, and the surprising thing about Tom Bonen, he wasn't on a section where it was on the cobblestone. Sometimes the chain, with the vibration, with the bike hopping, your chain can hop off and it can get jammed, but it didn't look like that. He was on the cobble section already that time, and we can see here, making the bikes, the third bike change.
Exactly. My goodness. I wonder if you'll like this one. Doesn't bode well, I'm afraid. So, poor old Tom Bonen, and here he is. It looks like he's trying to adjust his position as we speak, and but the fact of the matter is his position is not good because of his efforts, his problems.
Adesso ho chiamato Lars e Gilbert non si sembra molto fresco, allora forse non è finita, dai.
Well, got to be more, got to be fresher than Philippe Gilbert. I think everyone out there would potentially be so, but he's gutsy, Sean, and he's holding 58 seconds with 30 to go. It's an advantage that's pushed out and held by Gilbert. A remarkable performance, but he's got Christophe on his case, Peter Sagan as well as plenty of other notables, not least Ollie Nason from AG Tour La Mondiale. And indeed Fellini within this group, and Dylan van Baarle. We start rolling through these names, Sean, and they're something to behold. You'd have put them as no surprise if this was our finishing group.
Yes, and it's the big question is now, how much has got Philippe Gilbert got in the tank, because with 30 kilometres to go, what he's already put in, the effort, can he sustain that? And he is holding on very well, just under the minute at the moment. And we can see, the chasing group are working for a number of kilometres now, but they're not pulling down that advantage at all. The only problem I would see, the distance he has got to get to the finish.
Wow, he's sustaining it absolutely brilliantly. Philippe Gilbert wearing the Belgian flag, of course, here in Flanders. What could be better? Well, he could have another couple of minutes, I suggest. He must. There's no way he can think of anything else other than investing in the rest of these 29.4 kilometres, Sean. There's no more strategy other than to just go for it.
No, just keep on working on it, and when you're out in front alone, you have to be able to work out how much energy you've got on the climbs. You ride at a little bit under your top rate, certainly not at 100%, because you have to keep it going when you get over the climb. When you're alone out in front, there's no recovery time, there's no opportunity to draft from another rider, so it's going to be very important. Experience will be called in here, but the power you've got, the energy levels you've got, that's going to be of major importance, and he's putting up some fight here. Still 57 seconds with 29 to go.
Sean, he told us that he was going to do this, essentially. When we interviewed him after 3 days of the Pan, he basically said, yes, I am a contender. Now, both Gilbert and Muhammad Ali prepared to give themselves maximum billing ahead of an event such as this. Some might take it as arrogance, but I don't think it's that. I think it's just sheer confidence and a delight that he's found himself to be in such a good place. And he's in a good place now, although he's hurting.
Yes, well, he's in a really good place and has been for a number of weeks. And the 3 days of the Pan, he was so impressive. And he's just, continued on, and he's, producing that sort of a performance here again today. I think when he was interviewed, there was no way he could hide. He was going to be made a big favourite by the press, so the best thing to do is say, okay, I'm a favourite, and let's get on with it. And he's certainly getting on with it at the moment.
He most certainly is. This is the André Greipel group with Pippo Pozzato, a few other principals as well. Jesper Stuyven is in that group, as you can see. I'm glad to see that Pozzato's still possessed of a battling mentality. You've also got the Norwegian champion within this group. It's G3, by the way, which is Edvald Bosenhagen. There's Peter Sagan. Now, he's prepared to do a bit of work here, Sagan, because he'd be haranguing the others, even from this distance. I think Sagan also has a level of confidence that belies the pace at the moment. 59 seconds, Gilbert still holds it, and he's still holding it together up this climb, Sean. Another one. How many more to knock down?
Yes, he's still fighting and still looking good. He's attacking the climb here, and the clock is telling the story. 57 seconds at the moment. Sagan has no choice here, only to ride with Van Avermaet and the rest.
28.2 kilometres remaining of today. 56 seconds is the gap that is held by Gilbert, but it's slowly but surely being eroded. The flag boys need to get themselves out of the way. He's coming through. 450 metres only of cobble within this 2.5 kilometre climb, and they're on it right now. This is the Kreuzberg, and they may well be crossing themselves. Livid, you might say. There is Van Avermaet on the front, sharing duties with Sagan. Also here, Ollie Nason of AG Tour La Mondiale in the brown and white. Fellini stayed with it. That's a powerful performance by him. He and Dylan van Baarle tried to push on into the gap that had been created by Philippe Gilbert. And still, he manages to stay in touch. Might be some good news for them. This is very good news for Gilbert. He's back out towards the minute. 58 seconds now. Whatever he seems to lose, he regains as they take on sustenance behind. And you're going to need that. Nobody wants the knock with 27.8 kilometers to go. Sagan considers which flavor he's going to go for as far as the gels are concerned. He finds one he likes right now. That's how relaxed he is. That's how controlled he can be in situations such as this. Everyone fears Sagan. He wears the rainbows for a very good reason, and he might well be in a very good place at the end of this day.
Yes, well, it's still possible with the 27.5 to go, 55 seconds. We can see Sagan there, he's taking an energy gel, and that's something you have to, be very careful with. You have to continue on eating, you have to take your gels at this point in the race, and keep on drinking also, because the effort you're making here, it can hit you very, very quickly. You can feel real good at this point, but 10 kilometers down the road, if you do not eat properly, drink properly, then you can get caught out.
Wow. Well, they ride on, do they not? So the climbs are starting to run out, and so is time for some. I suggest that Peter Sagan, he looked round there almost disdainfully, saying, look, I'm having a gel, I'm chilling. You better do some work. I'm not going to do it for you. And there lies the problem, Sean, for Sagan, but also for everyone else around him here. How do you play the man? Let's listen in here.
Hier, Phil. 1 en 5, 1 en 5. Dat moet kunnen, hè, maat. Hier, pak wat zelletjes. Heel belangrijk hier.
Well, they're telling him 1 minute and 5. They're handing out the gels, anything he needs. He's got full service. It's over a minute. They've got a car to service him within the gap. Fabulous.
Yes, and we can hear Radio Tour, knee overdriving, don't overdo it, with the car beside Philippe Gilbert. So Wilfred Peters is getting the call there from the commissaires, and that is also the tactic. If you have a side wind coming from the right hand side, go beside your rider for a couple of 100 meters. That gives a great little kick to the rider.
Don't overdo it, indeed. Well, I would suggest he may well be doing exactly that. He's got 2 more climbs to deal with, Gilbert. How many more times do we have to question his tactics when he goes very early? He couldn't have gone much earlier today, Sean, but he did. It's maybe heartbreak for others, despite the fact that they've got plenty of it. Clermont and Peterburg wait only now. I say only. What a double punch that is. And he's got 10 Ks before he's at the top of the Clermont.
Yes, and he is putting in a super performance here, and we can see back in the chasing group 3 there, they're starting to attack each other, and that is going to be also a difficult one. 128 back to the group number 3, so they're not too far off that chasing group of Sagan, Van Avermaet, and if there's riders there, still can you really push on? We could see some of those riders coming across at that group of Van Avermaet, Sagan, but Gilbert, what a ride he's throwing in here today.
It's remarkable. Now, we normally say rule of thumb, a minute per 10 Ks, so it'd have to be, as a sole rider, certainly more than 2.5 minutes up at this point. But that's before you realise it's Philippe Gilbert, and he's done this before, Sean, but not necessarily in this company, or indeed with a race of this level of importance. Somebody will tell me there has been another occasion, but quite frankly, I'm just blown away by this and the effort he's managing to sustain.
Yes, and I think he's in a section now where it's going to be vital until he comes to the next climb, the Outer Quaremont. There's quite a number of kilometres here between the Kreisberg and the Quaremont, so that is going to be a big test for him. When you're riding alone, it's always majorly difficult unless you're really good on the day, and Gilbert is certainly that today, but can he sustain that effort? We can see the riders here chasing, we can see Sagan, we can see Nas, and we can see Van Avermaet, Ofredro. They're all starting to ride here, but still it's holding on at 55 seconds for Gilbert.
It is. I suggest that if they go into attacking mode, well, they're going to have to find it, I guess, on the double climb at the very last. But the way Gilbert's been taking them, seated, delivering the power, Sean, like nobody else, he's the best of us for now.
Yes, well, he looks on a super day, and he's just holding off so well. But again, the way they're riding here at the moment, if he has a little bit of a downer in the final and on the climbs when we get to the Outer Quaremont and the Patersberg, that is going to be important, that he can sustain riding at this level, and if he does that, well, then it's going to be difficult to see him being pulled back. But 24 kilometres at the end of a 260 kilometres race with this difficult terrain, you can tire very quickly in the final kilometres.
Andre's had enough. In a good way. He's had enough of riding within this group, and he's decided that if he's going to have a chance today, with the likes of Feline up front, Alexander Kristoff likewise, he may as well try and join the party, and that's exactly what he's done. Would you invite a gorilla to the party? They won't like him being there, but they've got to believe that they'll have the bettering of him when it gets to Clermont and the Patek Bag. But then when it flattens out, we could have a hugely efficient sprint from some very, very quick men by the time we get there. Philippe Gilbert holds 55 seconds, 54 now. Is it now proving to be too much? You've got to believe he most certainly has to, Sean. That's one of the main focuses he's got to have. Belief that he can deliver this. His team certainly are encouraging him to do so.
Yes, well, you have to believe, and you just have to use your experience, concentrate, what's out in front, what's coming up, and experience is going to be important. But Gilbert, he's been here in this situation before. He's been in, major big situations, so that's not going to be the problem. Has he got the power to hold on? It's starting to come down slowly, 51 seconds at the moment, but again, when he gets onto the climbs, if he can sustain the effort he's been putting in and hold on to that 50 seconds over the Quaremont, and if he gets the part as well with this sort of advantage, well then the final 13 kilometres he should be able to hold on, but 50 seconds he has to have at least 35-40 seconds on the final climb of the day.
Greipel, I believe, with Lutsenko here as well, with company from UAE. We had Modulo was looking very good. As soon as the road pitches up, looks like a bad gear selection for Greipel. No such issues for this man here. 51 seconds though, and more of a chit-chat. The race commissaire will be on the radio as well. By the way, cars even following behind you do give you a bow draft as well, if they're close enough. So the aero assist is reasonably significant, and that's why the car was called out yet again there, Sean. Get away from him.
Yes, well, I think the director sportif know that he cannot, push it too much, and he's going to be called by the commissar. And we did hear just the previous time he came up, and it depends on as well the wind situation, and of course the director sportifs know the time to come up when it's a little bit of a side wind. That's the time to come up on the sheltery side of the rider, give him a little bit of a recovery time, and it does help a lot in the final of a race like this one.
Yeah. Look at him now, smile or grimace, probably a little bit of both at the moment, but it's a tenuous 51 seconds. He's got to start showing some nerves, but he shredded everybody else for the time being. This is a pacey intro. He's through Bersham. He comes into Clermont in just a kilometre or so's time, and then he has to take on these final two tests. Sean, I'm beginning to believe here.
Yes, well, it's looking good for him at the moment. It's coming down, but coming down very, very slowly. And if he can sustain this effort, which he's putting in at the moment, keep this pace, get onto the two final climbs of the day, well then it's looking very possible. But again, how much power, how much attack is going to be left in this chasing group? And the outer Quaremont, if some of these riders can really push on, well then they could eat into the advantage of Philippe Gilbert big time.
Two names were written largest, I think it's fair to say, when this day began. One of those was Greg Van Avermaet, and the other one was Peter Sagan. And we find them here within this group. And I don't know. I'm beginning to believe in Gilbert, but these last two tests are so difficult. Maybe that man is going to do it again, repeat the feat, and what an amazing performance that would be. Doubling up as world champion as well, Sean, here.
Yes, well, I think it's going to be difficult to see Peter Sagan putting in a big attack, because he's been riding a long time on the front now, and to be able to attack on the outer Quaremont, I think he's paying for his efforts, as Greg Van Avermaet is. But again, you never know. The big champions, they can just put in these unbelievable performance in the final of a big race, and it's all about how much they have got left as well at this point in the race, with well over 200 kilometres in their legs.
Philippe Gilbert, he is, I wouldn't say necessarily he was top of the favourites list within Belgium. That's surely has to be Tom Bonen, who's had his issues today. But he'll be very, very close to it after today's performance. If he brings the Belgian flag home in Belgium at Flanders, there surely can be no bigger fillip for the crowds here that have turned out in their tens of thousands. They will have one solid hero in Philippe Gilbert. He's brought them joy in the past, of course. He's performed at the very highest level, but this one's surely got to be up there if he manages to make this stick, Sean.
Yes, well, I think this will be one of the greatest one of the greatest wins of his career, because the way he's went out and attacked so early, it looked like it was going to be an impossible task, and I was asking myself, this is not going to, this is not going to happen. He's not going to be able to ride from this distance out with the situation, further back the road. But the ride he's put in, the performance and the power he's just, he's had today, it's amazing, and it just continues on. 52 seconds at the moment, and it looks like, the firepower's gone out of this chasing group of Sagan Van Avermaet.
Certainly does. 52 seconds. It's with a level of surprise that everybody here welcomes greatness. We talked about the bow wave of the vehicles from behind, but in terms of talent, he's producing it right now. He's almost just blasting everybody away, not just the peloton, but everyone else. They take a big breath as he comes by, and no surprise there, I guess you might say, deserving of all the applause in a very narrow section where they've vaulted the barriers here. They're letting their excitement get the better of them as Gilbert stays controlled, Sean.
Yes, well, he has to do that. He has to continue on riding at a real strong pace. Certainly not attack the climb in the earlier part. Ride up it, and no rider knows better than Philippe Gilbert how to manage his efforts here, and that's what you've got to do. It's all about managing the power you've got left, and he's doing that quite well here, because the difficult part is to come when you go onto the cobble section. That's where it will really hurt, and he's riding this section looking very comfortable at the moment.
When do we believe that 57 seconds is enough, Sean? The last 8 kilometres from home?
No, I think we can take it at the Patersberg. If he has 50 seconds on the Patersberg, well, then I think he should be able to go on and win this one. I think, yes, we will see a clearer picture back in the chasing group now as we go on to the cobble section here of the Oude Quaremont. What have the other big favourites left? Sagan, Van Avermaet, and the others, of course, as well. If they can really put in a big attack here, they could, pull back the advantage of Philippe Gilbert big time. So I think we will see a clear picture as we come over the Oude Quaremont, and that will be, I think, it is the decisive one for this Tour of Flanders.
A blessed rain gully is used by Philippe Gilbert. He'll take any advantage he can possibly get. It's Wanty and Alfredo that gets out of the saddle right now. Peter Sagan does not respond immediately. He knows that Greg Van Avermaet is on his case. Ollie Nason is also there. Also within this group, Dylan van Baal in the green of Cannondale. Likewise, Fabio Fellini, who'll take a free ride if he can get one. There is Fellini, a cobbles amateur, he says. His own words description of himself. Needs experience, but he's a quick man, and he might well be up for a podium place at the very least here today. But Philippe Gilbert is a man who is showing power in every department, and listen to the roar here. That's a man being feted by his fans, and in fact he's added to that number, I suggest, globally today. He's brave, he's gutsy, and more than that, he's got all the skills he needs to deliver this. Will he? He holds 57 seconds. There it is. He stands up to the mountain. He cuts it down with the blade of his hand. The Quaremont belongs to him as well. Just the Paterberg to go, and then he can bring this home, Sean.
Yes, well, he's looking really impressive at the moment, the way he's climbing there. He's attacking the climb, the steep section of it there, and you could see the crowd, of course, the way they're cheering him on. That is, really making him push that bit more again. And now he's on the easier section here. 59 seconds, so it looks like he's pulled out 2 or 3 seconds there on the chasing group. And this ride, it's a monstrous ride by Philippe Gilbert in this Tour of Flanders.
It's historic, Sean.
Yes, I think it will go down as one of the biggest rides in the history of this Tour of Flanders. I do not remember from my time riding, from my time commentating, anybody putting in a performance like this in the Tour of Flanders.
It is just remarkable, and all the sweeter for the men that he is putting to the sword at the moment. Yes, that's Sagan, the world champion. Yes, that's Van Avermaet as well. Goodness gracious me, what are we seeing here? This is as glorious a performance as you're likely to witness, particularly on an event such as this. The best come to do battle here, Sean, and one man is standing loud and proud, and it's calling out the sound of the bell that's being rung by Gilbert to everybody else, and it's the final round. Can he deliver it?
Yes, I think it looks very much he can, hold on there. We can see Sagan pushing on big time, and a lot of the riders there losing contact. We can see Philippe Gilbert's teammate there, Trentin, also starting to get into difficulty, losing contact here.
Oh! Sagan's down! Van Avermaet's down!
Oh.
Nason's down! They've all tagged each other! Disaster! It's playing into the hands of Gilbert! You want drama, then you've got it in buckets at the moment. Fellini pushes on, goes by. Down and staying down is Oliver Nason. Oh my goodness, it's a flag or something, somebody's jacket that's got into the mess here. It's been tagged and they have been taken down. The crowd's had an impact. Somebody's to blame. This man can only push on. It's not down to him. He's going to bid for glory, and I suggest the wave upon which he is surfing now of emotion and goodwill is not matched back here. Peter Sagan can't believe it, and neither can we, Sean. What a moment.
What a moment, and it looks like it was it a blanket? Something went into a jacket went into his rear wheel. Nothing he could do, just, the rear wheel seemed to get blocked, and the riders behind him just ploughed into the rear of him. And
here it is, watch it. Black jacket maybe billowed out front. They're on the rain gully, and there it was. In fact, I believe the jacket was secondary. They took down, they hit one of the feet, I believe. Oh my goodness, Nason in the arms of Nason is Sagan. Let's have a look at it again. Bang, down he goes. The jacket was incidental, I believe. Just looked more serious than it was. Nightmare scenario, handlebar tagged, maybe at open arms, trying to acknowledge the greats who are coming by, and Peter Sagan stares into the camera as if to say, take one more picture of me, my friend, and you're going to have to take a couple of steps back as I swing. My goodness, 15.9 to go, what drama, and just look at the impact further back. Borough can't believe it. Let's listen in. Well, I won't translate for you. That is Italian that I do understand, and it's not nice, and that's not a nice scenario as well. They roar on Sagan, who gets back on his bike. How will this pan out then? It plays into the hands of Gilbert. Getting through was Sir Greg Van Avermaet as well, who now has every right to push on as hard as he might. Masish Bodnar dropping back. My goodness, what drama we've had, Sean. You can't script this race. I'm not saying it's pleasant for Sagan, but it just adds to what has been a phenomenal theatre of war as far as cycling is concerned here.
Well, it's not surprising that we see those sorts of problems for the riders, because when you see the number of people on the roadside riding so close to the barriers, and Sagan, he was really riding on the limit there, and just seemed to get the publicity banner. I think he got tangled in that, and then he collected the jacket also, got tangled in his rear wheel. So the way they ride these riders, any little bit of better surface. I think Sagan was trying to ride on the edge, get off the cobbles, and just a little bit too close, and got hooked by the publicity banner, and down he goes and takes a number of other riders with him. And now for Gilbert, I think the big chase that was being pushed on by Sagan Van Avermaet is gone.
Sagan was the engine room in the chase, let there be no doubt. He has the strength to win a world champion's jersey. You can see as well, he just checks his own shoulder. Everything's working, but unfortunately it wasn't a few moments ago. And he's taking drinks and gels at the moment, and I'm afraid this is just a ride in for Sagan right now. Crestfallen most definitely, but what a great rider, and what a shame to see him taken out by such an incident. I believe he caught the hoarding advertising, and the jacket was just ripped off, having been draped over the top. I don't think it was a fan's jacket that caused the crash. It was Sagan just collecting a publicity, maybe a billowing sign there.
Yes, well, the publicity banners, they can blow a little bit in the wind, and the spectators also maybe pushing out a bit, trying to get a really good view of the riders. And Sagan just hooked one of them, and down he goes. And when it happens at this point in the race, well, the day is over.
Wow. This is the second group, by the way. That's the Sagan group that's been time quoted for you. There may be some transponder issues along the way. What drama we've had here. Philippe Gilbert then pushes on. He's every right to do so. He earned the right to fight, Sean, and he's battling all the way. This is the final climb. Surely he's got to bring this one home.
Yes, I think he's definitely going to take it home, and he's on the final climb, the Patersberg, and we can see on the outer Quartermount just some time ago the way he was, charging up that. He looked to be in real good shape. Still, looking quite fresh, and he's climbing here the Patersberg with, the gradient. It tops out to be very, very steep at times, but still looking real good. And the advantage he has got here, he's going to, go on and take the victory today.
Finally, he allows himself a moment out of the saddle. Every single incline that he's had to deal with, he's been solid and locked down, and he's thrown away the key for everybody else here, I'm afraid. This has been an impregnable performance. This is 20.3% where he is right now. The motorcycle almost stalling behind him. Sagan has been diminished today. Van Avermaet has been hobbled as well, maybe distracted. One man has kept his focus throughout, and it's Philippe Gilbert, and here he is, the last of the climbs, and they're onto him, are they? No, 1:16 back. Hard break for them. It's going to be a tough call for Feline. Maybe he'll have something when it gets quicker a little bit later on. Fast, you want fierce, you want everything, then wrap it all up in a package and post it to Philippe Gilbert. Not that he hasn't got enough of that. There's Van Baarle about to be caught by these guys at the moment. My goodness, we turn the pages as we write them here. History we're talking, and what a historic performance it's been by Gilbert. He's out front at the moment, bidding for glory. His gap is 48 seconds with 12.7 to go. Surely his heart can't be broken. Well, if it's going to be, maybe it'll be Van Avermaet who does it, Sean. Started off as favourite today. Is there another page to be written here? We can't tell it all yet.
Well, it will be an extraordinary ride by Van Avermaet if he can close down the advantage Gilbert. But again, Gilbert has been out there for a long time. We can see another quick step floors rider, Nicky Terpstra, just on tow with Van Avermaet here. And it is going to be a spectacular final, but I think Gilbert has enough of an advantage. He should be able to hold on to take the victory.
Well, I think all neutral fans are probably praying that Gilbert makes it all the way, and here he is. Now he has to get himself into time trialing mode. Back end kicks out as he makes the transition from one surface to another. You're just kind of hoping that there's nothing like punctures. Even a squeal of brakes is a distraction at a moment such as this. Degenkolb grinding his way up here. Some brave riders we've got, I'm afraid, have been taken out today, but yet more fight on. But can this man bring it home? Now the questions are rising in my mind again. He wants to know the gap. Tell the man, for goodness sake.
Yes, he's calling for something. I'm not sure exactly. Is it for the advantage he's got, but he is shouting at some of the commissaires' motorbikes, and I would reckon, what is the advantage at the moment? As we can see here, 11.5 to go. He's just going to, get into time trial mode and give it everything.
What's the gap, he's asking, screaming constantly, for goodness sake. Clearly nothing on the radio for him at the moment. On such a long race, it's not uncommon for batteries to fail you at moments such as this. Asking anxiously, full of adrenaline though, Sean, and the anger to carry this one home.
Yes, well, of course, he is going to be full of adrenaline when you're in this situation. Such a big race in the final, 11.2 kilometers to go. He is, really as... he's really wondering what's happening behind, and I suppose the advantage first of all that he has got, and who's chasing, what sort of a group is behind.
Well, they were asking who it is, and here we are. Terpstra and Van Avermaet is Group 3. There is Van Baarle at the moment. Now, I don't know whether you heard the number that was called out there in Flemish, Sean. Was it 35, 38 seconds?
Yeah, it was 30 something. I did not get exactly what, but it was. Did seem to be 30 something seconds.
They honour the gladiators here, even the fallen. Well, he's picked up more honours, and an honourable day it is for Peter Sagan. Just an unfortunate one, I think it's fair to say. 10.6 kilometres to go. There's a trio chasing on. Terpstra, 53 it is. We misheard the numbers. G2, 53 seconds with 10.5 to go. They'd have to really push on, Sean, if they were going to deny him now.
Yes, well, 53 seconds is a huge advantage with just over 10 kilometres to go. But the interesting one is that Terpstra is riding here.
Look at them, they grind in, and the disappointed Tom Bonin, he had to believe that he had a chance today, albeit with Philippe Gilbert up the road. He'll take some comfort in that. last Flanders for Bonen. He has the Shoulder Prize, and of course next weekend he has the Paris-Roubaix, both of which you'll be able to see and enjoy here on Eurosport, your home of cycling. What a home it's been. It's almost a care home, I think, today. We are just rack full of emotion yet again, torn from asunder, I guess, by just the bravery of everyone today, Sean, apart from anything else. Just that stickability, getting back on the bike and just punishing yourself. It's what makes this sport great. There's no hiding place out there at all. You have to be strong, you have to be brave, as well as all the other skills. Tongues out for Gilbert. He's got it all today, potentially.
Yes, well, I think Gilbert, what can you say about the man? The way he's, taken this race by the scruff of the neck so far out, and he's just put in a monstrous ride here. The power he has, shown today is just amazing. I think he will, take this one as the best performance of his career. And the race, of course, is not without incidents. We see Sagan going down and taking out some of the other big favourites as well. That is the Tour of Flanders. In the past years we've seen a lot of that, and that is the excitement of this race. That so much can happen. You can be so good, you can be going so well. Mechanical crashes, it can take your chance of getting something out of this race, as it has been the case for Tom Boonen, because Tom Boonen would, I think, been in this chasing group, and mechanical problem at the wrong time is just taking him out of the equation.
53 seconds, it dipped down to 49, it's back up, and the bumps and bruises are there on display for absolutely everybody. So he did take a hit. Maybe it was on that shimmy that took down Sagan, and anything will have an impact. Greg van Avermaet starting the day as joint favourite with Peter Sagan. Philippe Gilbert said he had to be amongst the favourites, and well, it may well not have been all talk, as you can see. In fact, it was simply a prediction. Philippe Gilbert, 53 seconds is his advantage, with 8.7 kilometres from home. They're on the highway to heaven, I suggest, Sean.
Yes, well, I think certainly Gilbert is on the highway, and he's been on the highway for a long time in this race today. But we can see, the other riders are just, continuing to push on, and you've got to do that as well, because places in this race are of major importance. And we can see Van Avermaet wanting to push on, Van Baal also, if you can get on the podium. But if you get a top 5, a top 10 in this race, that is a huge performance. But Philippe Gilbert's performance today, it's just a monstrous ride.
This is the full delivery of the time gaps to Philippe Gilbert. There we are, and a little bit of advice, as if there's any to be given to a great man such as this.
1 minute. He's adding on a number of seconds there, but that's what the director of sport needs to do. Just give a little bit of an advantage to the rider. But with 52 or 53 seconds, 8 kilometres to go, Philippe Gilbert, he's going to take this victory today.
And what a trio of riders in his wake here. We've had some great riders today. We've seen some great performances and some enormous disappointment as well, Sean. They know they're riding for minor places right now, and some surprises to be this high up the order, I suggest. Sylvain Chavanel has been outstanding within this race as well, as and there he is, the veteran. Pippo Pozzato as well. We saw him just giving so much out there. Feline is here. There is Pozzato at the front, by the way, in the yellow, red and black. Feline can start to think of himself potentially as a contender on a race such as this. He's in that third group at 1 minute and 4. But it will only be 4th place if they do manage to bring it in, that they battle for, or 5th, I should say. There are 3 chasing Gilbert, and Gilbert is chasing his place in history. And Sean, you said it, the biggest delivery, I think, the biggest result, notwithstanding the World Championships he won, of course, back in 2012. But I think this has got to be the sweetest, especially from where it comes within his career, I suggest.
Yes, well, this is going to be the performance of his life. Victories and the race that he has won, maybe not the best one, because world champion, of course, you're always world champion. You get the jersey for a year, the rainbow bands, you carry that. But the way he's went out and taken on this race so far out, and the way he's held on, different groups, different riders, trying to chase behind, getting organised, but never able to pull back anything major. Maybe 3 or 5 seconds, then he pulled it out again, and he's hovered around this 45 seconds to a minute in the last 55-60 kilometres.
It's 18 seconds or so there or thereabouts between these guys and the chasers, and they're leaning just a little bit on Greg Van Avermaet. And I suggest that group might come together and duke it out for a secondary sprint. What is it? 20 seconds now, the gap, as you can see. 42 seconds this trio, and then the Chavanel group, who are just behind, including Feline, who I think could do some damage late on. But at a margin, they could close up in this 6.3 kilometres, but they have to work at it. And at the moment, they can't decide how to do this. Feline goes off to on the front, as you can see. Pippo just at the back, doing a fantastic job for a veteran, as he is. Likewise, Chavanel, who rolls through to take his turn. Matteo Trentin doesn't have to work because Philippe Gilbert, of course, his teammate, is up the road, shaking their head by Pozzato as well. He wants everything, Pozzato, and why not? And we look back as well, and we see some other chasers right now. Peter Sagan, what might have been, I think you might say, Sean, there was a moment where we thought that they might well push back in. He found his mojo, he was pushing on, certainly investing an awful lot the moment he was taken down by an unfortunate hoarding that really ended his challenge today. But what might have been, I guess, are we going to drop in for these guys? Here they are.
Kom op, Phil. 35 seconden. Kom op, die komen niet terug. Kom on, man. Voor de wind. Ja, tuurlijk. Kom op. Wie rijdt? Just Van Avermaet en Van Baarle. En Nicky en Phil. Kom op, man.
The three of them he's talking about, but it's 39 seconds. It's narrowing with 5.4 to go. Surely this can't not happen, Sean.
Well, it's difficult. 5 kilometres, it's a long way when you're being out for this distance, and 37 seconds is dropped down very quickly. We did hear there Tom Steele speaking to him. There's 2 chasing, Van Baarle and Van Avermaet, with Nicky in wheel. Nicky Terpstra, of course, who was a teammate, and he's really struggling here. It looks like there's a bit of a headwind.
He's lost 30 seconds in about 3Ks. There are 5 to go. 20 seconds in 3Ks. There are 5 remaining. He has to find something exceptional. Luckily for him, I guess, he's got his teammate here, Nicky Terpstra, who's got a free ride as far as these guys are concerned. And is the balance switching to, still with Quick Step? They had strength in abundance, and it may well be a great card for them to play. Dylan Van Baarle, as they go into the 5Ks banner, only 300 metres separating them and Philippe Gilbert at the moment. 34 seconds. Watch that clock, and 58 to the group that's coming in behind as well, Sean. Oh my goodness, is it all going to come back together at the very last?
Yes, well, that's something, it's a danger one, because we can see further back the road in that second chasing group, they're riding quite well, and the advantage to that group of Van Avermaet is coming down, and they are pushing on. And 4.4 kilometres, it's, it doesn't sound a lot, but at this stage in the race, with the wind conditions, we can see the wind looks like it's a headwind actually, and that's making it difficult for Gilbert out front. And we can see here, they're starting to look at each other, and that's going to be not good for this second chasing group on the road.
It's not going to be good for them. Let's see if Philippe Gilbert can get a bit of a shelter here. 35 seconds, surely as a neutral, you've got to hope for this. 4 kilometres to go, 35 seconds the advantage. I suggest it's touch and go, but only if there's some strength left, and it's such a long race this, Sean. 261 kilometres, just shy of that, 200 metres shy of that marker. They can't believe it. They're racked at the moment. They cannot believe what's happened today. That, of course, is Sagan's team.
Yes, of course. And the moment Sagan had the problem on the outer Quaremont, he was really pushing on. He was causing a lot of difficulty for the riders that was in that group with him, and he was going to really put him under pressure. And what would Sagan have done? And he would be certainly up there with Van Avermaet, and I think that would have been a different outcome. 3.5 to go, 34 seconds. Gilbert has to hang on now. He has to just dig deep. He has to get his strength from somewhere. But if Sagan was here with Van Avermaet chasing, well, then it would be a much more complicated and a more difficult one for Philippe Gilbert.
He's holding the gap. 3.3 kilometres to go. It's the 3Ks to go banner. It will be, I believe, a blue Het Nieuwsblad banner that he will welcome in with 2 to go. But he's got to deal with this one. Kilometre by kilometre, Sean. He's held that advantage. He lost only 2 seconds in that last K.
Yes, well, I think he's just really, digging deep here, giving it 100% and just pulling every ounce of energy out of somewhere, and that's what you're going to do. But again, the body has to start tiring. The way he's been riding for so far here today, it's normal that he's starting to tire, but yeah, it looks like he just has got enough in the tank.
Everybody is tired. Let's just remind ourselves the one card to play they've got if Gilbert card fails is that man at the back here. Nicky Terpstra is getting a free ride, being essentially drafted by the 2 men in front of him. He doesn't have to push on. He's not expected to do so. Greg Van Avermaet is doing a lot of work here. So is Dylan van Baal in the green. There is Van Avermaet. He's taken a tumble himself. He's carrying battle scars, as so many are today. They roll through, but Terpstra will be a foil, an alternative card for Quick Step today if Gilbert starts to flag. 2.4 to go. He's still got 30 seconds.
No, I think it's 30 seconds has to be enough for Philippe Gilbert here at the moment, and certainly for Quick Step, they have Nicky Terpstra here in a really good position to take, another place on the podium. And the team we talked about at the earlier part of our programme today, they certainly had riders. Unfortunately for Tom Bonan, he was, another rider who was really unlucky today, because he was in a really good position to be in the position here where Terpstra is at the moment.
1,800 metres to go. About that, with Philippe Gilbert charging into the void right now. A step into the blue. We've had blue skies today, and maybe that's the tune that's rattling around his head. These guys, well, there'll be all kinds of questions, I'm afraid. We still have no answer as far as the makeup of the podium, and indeed the order that they're going to bring it in. But we believe that it's going to be about Gilbert. The Flamme Rouge beckons for him on this straight road to glory. What a day. Sean, when somebody goes long, quite often it can be a story told. The gap appears to be closing right now. This has been enthralling what Gilbert has done. Quite often, when somebody goes up the road, it's like, as I say, a story told, but there's been so many elements to today, and we've never known whether he's going to make it. Still don't fully know whether he can, but now I actually believe it will happen.
Yes, well, I think with the kilometre to go here and around the 30 seconds advantage, it has to be enough now. And there was many times there I was doubting that he was going to hold on. When you see the situation, groups getting organised, teams chasing, and when you consider the distance he had to go to the finish with such a difficult final here, lots of climbs to be negotiated, to got over, but he's put in just an unbelievable performance, and chapeau, taking it up so far out from the finish, taking the victory here in this Tour of Flanders.
The flags are waving upon our champion in waiting. We have waited an awful long time. With over 200 kilometres to go, we said this was a possibility. He believed it, we believed it, and boy oh boy, he has delivered it. The grimace turns to a smile. He salutes everybody, and we salute him. What a way to bring home the Belgian tricolour. Look at the fans here. They are in absolute awe, as we are. He rides that centre line. King of the road, king of the day. And this is going to be going down into the history of Flanders as the greatest individual push. From so far out, he thought he could do it, and a thought has turned to reality. As 50 metres to go, we just frankly stand open-mouthed in awe of a great, great man. Chapeau, Philippe. What a way about him, and what a winner. We look further back, and surely it's got to be Terpstra that's got the advantage here. He rolls into it. Dylan van Baarle, who's been a great rider in these kind of scenarios. Greg van Avermaet's going to come out and go to the line and show his sprinting credentials. Terpstra holds him, does he? Now Van Avermaet comes to the fore. He takes second place ahead of Terpstra and Van Baarle. But it's about podiums, and you can see what it means to be the first of the rest. It's not a winning scenario. Well, what might have been for so many of these guys as well, as they weave all over the road. Dagan Kolber's got the power, but I'm afraid he didn't have the position. Here comes Christoph as well, just to roll his aero helmet to the line. A day of hurt, a day of drama like no other, but more than that, a day of individual belief and endeavour like none we've seen before. Wow. What a guy, Sean.
What a guy. And what a performance. 6 hours 23 in the saddle, and you know, to be able to ride like that in the final 50 kilometers plus, the ride of his career, I would reckon.
And other ABBA songs are available. My goodness. Well, what a way to sum it up, Sean.
Yes. Well, not surprising, Patrick Lefevre there, you know, really over the moon with this performance. And Philippe Gilbert, as we mentioned in the earlier part of our programme, you know, the last year or two, London was his best years over, but he's put that to bed today, and you know, he's back better than ever.
Just love this sport. How can you not? We'll take a break and we'll be back with a word with this man once he's got his breath back.
En ze gaan op sprinten voor de ereplaats. Bereid hebben ze. In die groep is ook Tom Bonen. Net nu op plaats 4.
That shows the camaraderie and the acknowledgement of a true great, Philippe Gilbert. And Peter Sagan rolling in and asking himself, I guess, what might have been. On a magical day, near historic one, Andre Greipel over the line with Edvald Bosenhagen, some fabulous riders out there. I can just tell you that Tom Bonen has just walked in and offered up his congratulations to Philippe Gilbert as well, interrupting his chats to the media. He'll be talking to us in a few moments' time. We await that. What a day, Sean. What an historic ride. He's written history here, Philippe Gilbert, no doubt about that with that performance. It'll long be remembered.
Yes, well, it will be remembered for a long, long time. It will go down the history books as one of the strongest rides in the race. And you know, to do it in the Belgium Championships and the Belgium champion jersey, sorry, that's another plus.
Yes, indeed. Well, the clock rolls on. Those who had an option for the day, but it's all about minor places. Still worth fighting for, as you can see. But really, what will stand loud and proud throughout the day, despite the mishaps that have taken out so many. Philippe Gilbert, just in
it's something very, very special.
And the bravest,
you know, like
ride I think I've seen for quite some time.
The support I had the whole day.
At the point when he did,
I think with this jersey, everyone recognized me, and I had a lot of support. And
it's amazing.
you know, I'm also coming from the Walloon part of Belgium, and I know before me was Claude Criquelion winning. It's 30 years ago. And today we passed almost in his village, and so his son also, Mathieu, which is have the same age as me. And I was thinking at him, and this gave me a lot of emotion. And yeah, I was thinking to this also in the final. Yeah, so it's really nice for me.
It all started on the Moor.
Faire la conclusion en français.
Of course, and he was riding with Tom and Wheel, and it went on from there. And
Encore une question en français.
After the Moor, they had 3 riders in the group from Quickstep Floors, and they decided just to push on from there.
Ouais, il y a beaucoup d'émotions aujourd'hui, et voilà, ma mère est juste là, et ça fait plaisir d'être là. Je remercie encore cette équipe, Quickstep Floors, pour la confiance.
After the Moor, there was a good gap there. We had a group of, as we see, about 15 riders, and we just pushed on from there.
Parce qu'à la fin, je sais que si derrière j'ai des mecs qui s'organisent bien, ils rentrent, et ils sont pas rentrés grâce au travail de l'équipe. Donc.
And then we went to the Quartermont, and we decided with Tom Bonen and Trentin to go full on, and that's what he did, and it just went on from there. And then I looked on the Quartermont, and I looked behind, and I was alone, and just continued on and went on from there.
As simple as that. Quite remarkable. Let's get the official result then, shall we, for you? Philippe Gilbert takes it ahead of Greg van Avermaet, Nicky Terpstra, Dylan van Baal and Alexander Kristoff rounding out the top 5. Quickman Sacha Badolo finishing with the fast man John Degenkolb and Pozzato. Sylvain Chavanel taking his time trialling abilities to the max to finish in 9th place. Good to see that veteran in the frame as well. But what a day today. Here's Greg.
Als we met die 5 man wegreden,
was
eigenlijk en Olly die vol doorreden en al de rest maar een beetje half en half.
They was riding for the win, but yeah, it didn't work out. He was riding a very strong race. Yeah, we were riding, chasing after, and we had a group of riders, but there was some not contributing to the chase. And yeah, Phil is the, he deserves the win.
Niks aan appreciatie, niks dan applaus in petto van de winnaar van de Ronde van Vlaanderen.
And on the Muir of Geersbaken, he said he was a bit far behind, and he didn't really see what happened out front when that group of 14, 15 miles went out.
Winnaar van de Ronde van Vlaanderen 2017, Philippe Gilbert, proficiat. En op die manier steekt hij de fiets van de ring. Hij was vandaag heer en meester. Proficiat, Philippe.
Race influenced by the slow start. It looked slow from the motorbike.
Yeah, I was really slow also because the first break went, but then I think it was a really hard final. From the Muur on, it was full gas to the finish. And like I said, it was hard to get away, but finally when you get away, then you can start riding and then you can try to take some time back. But yeah, Phil had there 1 minute, 1 minute 10. And then you know it's hard to close a gap on a guy like this.
Is the conclusion of the day that the Muur has built the legend again in the Tour of Flanders?
Yeah, for sure.
That could take some
influence for sure,
from the
because
fact
the break
that
went there. I think there was still time to close it, but then you need also the good guys with you, the guys that wanted to ride, and that was not so easy in the beginning.
Today.
Congratulations
Greg
on
Van
second.
Avermaet came close. Peter Sagan, of course, came to grief, and this race will also be remembered for the incident that took him down. But Philippe Gilbert, I take nothing away from his performance. You can't, Sean. Everyone has ill fortune. It's how you ride it. And Philippe Gilbert today rode like no other.
Yes, well, I think the ride Philippe Gilbert put in today, you know, it's an extraordinary, a monstrous ride. And we did hear Van Avermaet saying, and the interview, you know, the Muur was a decisive factor in the race, and it certainly was, because Greg Van Avermaet missed the move there, and you know, he had to chase to come back in, but yeah, he was always chasing the game from there on.
Yeah, the Muur is back, and I think it's solidly within the Flanders calendar, and that's what you'd want, not in this race, I should say, as well as others where it features. And so when he made his move, there was an awful lot of riding still to do, and we knew he's been capable of going for it for this sort of distance. And in fact, we mentioned the fact at the top of the day, but to sustain it with the sort of chase group and the quality that was within it was something absolutely outstanding. There he was, a tenuous gap at that point, and we suggested that he's difficult to wind back when he does this, and so it proved. When finally this happened, that was taking out some real prospects. Luke Rowe, unfortunately, Sepp van Mark hit the centre line of the concrete laid path here. The front wheel went down and he collected Luke Rowe, and a real shame that was. Luke Rowe was on stellar form, was in the right group. But when you start stripping out the firepower, others start to suffer as well. Tom Bonen mashed 3 bikes along the way, Sean. Bizarre.
Yes, bizarre. You know, certainly the first bike we did see, before he had got onto the cobble section, his chain seemed to drop and get jammed between the chain wheels and the frame, and then he got the spare bike and it seemed to be exactly the same. So, you know, lost far too much time in the bike change, and then had to make a third bike change, so that took him out of the equation to get any sort of performance from this race. And of course then we see Peter Sagan really pushing on the outer Quaremont and just getting tangled in the publicity banners, and you know, also going down with Greg Van Avermaet, and really with Nassen also getting a very heavy fall.
Yes, indeed. What's the gap, says Gilbert, and there was moments, Sean, where it was touch and go, and it fell. When it fell from sort of 53, 56 seconds in 2Ks down to 36 seconds, we even questioned it ourselves, didn't we, whether he'd make it?
Yes, well, I think the final number of kilometres, 7, 9 kilometres, headwind all the way. Gilbert did suffer there for a number of kilometres, but when he got into that final 3 kilometres with plus 30 seconds advantage, he just, you know, gave everything and hung on bravely.
Well, he entered the euphoric and then carried his steed across the line. Fantastic performance, great rider, great day here in Flanders, to say the very least.